Good evening, Mr. Lassiter.
It looks better when it's just.
All right, I got 6 o'clock. I don't want to be here all night, neither do you. So let's get this show going. Good evening, y'all. Hope you had a good day. Whether you did or not, we're going to pick up where we left off last night. Still got some people coming in and getting comfortable. Guys, students, virtual students, satellite students, you may be getting job opportunities offered you in the real estate business. I don't know, you may be talking to family and friends, the words got out, and somebody's offering you a job. First of all it takes to get a job in the real estate business is a pulse, more often than not. I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but it doesn't cost a real estate company one penny to hang your license because you're 100% commission. So why not take a chance? So everybody's going to offer you a job. I just want you to understand, if and when you decide to have a sit down cup of coffee with a broker, understand that, you're the interviewer, not the interviewee. Now you may be thinking, I don't know what to ask. I've never done this. Well, everybody is doing it for the first time. You don't have to be fancy, but there's three main bullets. You want to discuss your compensation. You'd like to discuss what your monthly expenses will be, if you're going to have any. Some companies don't charge monthly expenses. And how are you going to train me? Those are the three probably biggest bullet points of conversation. And you can, in the name of humility, get comfortable from today forward telling people, I'm not very good at what I'm doing, but I have good intentions. I mean well. That's actually heartening to folks. It's raw honesty, and it breaks down psychological barriers, makes people instantly feel comfortable with you. And from that point on, you're relieved of the burden of feeling like you have to sound all professional. Because honestly, most real estate companies are like convenience stores. There's not much of a difference between any of them. They pretty much all offer the same compensation arrangements. I can assure you, if one company offers you a compensation arrangement and you like it, but you don't want to work for that company, you want to work for another company, take it to the other company and see, would you consider offering me this compensation arrangement? Because yes, it's negotiable. But right now, I brought that up to give you a couple of pointers, but to also let you know that this is something you should not be focusing on in case you happen to be. Don't be making calls. Don't be discussing your future. One step in front of the other. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay. Focus. They say be where your feet are. Okay. On page 300, I told you we would pick up the last couple of pages that I felt like we had to end on. We were at the bottom of page 300. The title of the session last night was Real Estate Taxes and Other Liens. So we talked about property taxes. We talked about special assessment taxes. And now this is the lien portion of the chapter. We've discussed some of this in other chapters already. So they reference a mortgage lien. I would like to think we're fairly well versed in that so far. But a mechanics lien is new and could be a question on the exam. So y'all know how I teach. So here's my little scenario. Let's say I own a home that's worth $100,000. It's mortgaged to the hilt. I have zero equity in it. And I happen to be a gambler too. And I'm down 30,000. And my bookmaker happens to be a friend of mine, but he says, Mark, I can give you 2 months, but boss man said he's going to take your left leg. And I'm like, holy crap. So I started asking all my family and friends for money. Nobody's willing to give me no money. I'm trying to look around, see if I own anything, if I can sell it and come up with the money. I don't own that much stuff. But I'm watching an HGTV show, flip it, and I think, oh my God, a little light bulb comes up over my head. So I ain't got no equity now, but I can create some equity by improving my property and increasing the value. So I have some contractors come in, they fancy the joint up, new master bath, new kitchen, hardwoods, etc. They in fact raise the value to 130. I now have the $30,000 of equity by the increase of value. I sell the home, I take the cash, I get out of hock. But who did I not pay in that scenario? The people who did the work. They got the shaft. Obviously, this happened in many shapes and forms. So the law came up with a mechanics lien. Why they chose the word mechanic, I got no idea, but I try to get beyond my anger over the weird words. But let's read it. In fact, I want you to highlight the first couple of sentences. Go ahead and highlight them and then we'll read it. First two sentences, bottom of page 300, mechanics lien. So let's read it. It is a specific involuntary lien. We learned about that last night, didn't we? Specific involuntary lien that gives security. We know what security means, assurances, which comes in the form of collateral to a lender, but gives security to persons or companies that perform labor or furnish material to improve real property. See how my scenario is coming into place? It is a mechanics lien is available to contractors, subs, architects, equipment lessors, surveyors, laborers, and other providers. So to prevent that from happening, if you hire me and I do work on your home, I'm going to go to the courthouse where your property is located and file a mechanics lien. So if you're going to try to pull that shenanigan, the lien kicks in at the closing and will prevent those proceeds from being cut to him. It's going to come to me because the lien is filed in the courthouse. The closing attorney is aware of it. You can't give the man the proceeds. It's got to go to the lien. So in a lien is given priority. We said the priority of liens is established chronologically in the order that they're recorded, right, by lien holders, but the mechanics lien would get to go up front. Again, the shenanigan I just gave you an example of is the reason behind the importance of a mechanics lien and why, in fact, it's given priority. So at the top of page 301 in the second paragraph, highlight the second sentence, the sentence that reads, a person claiming a mechanics lien must file a notice of lien in the public record of the county where the property is located. I just told you that, but now you're highlighting it and you can see it when you're going back through your book studying. And I know it sounds logical, like you didn't really need to be told that, but guys, a lot of time contractors come from out of state. I might live in Sylacauga, but I hire a contractor out of Atlanta. They come in, they get some rooms, a little extended stay in town, and they spend a week or two on my property rehabbing it, and then they get in the van and go home. So what if that mechanic went home to Atlanta and recorded the mechanics lien in Atlanta? It ain't gonna work. That's why this could be something you need to know on the exam, that you would file it in the county where the property is located. The next paragraph, highlight the last sentence. In some states, it says, mechanics lien may be given priority over previously recorded liens. It does. We talked about that, but now you're highlighting it so you can see it when you're outside of class. Bottom of the page, very last paragraph, highlight the three italicized words, writ of execution. It's the third paragraph under judgment. Writ of execution. So we know what a judgment is. One of my oak trees, I cut it down and it accidentally falls on your house, does $140,000 worth of damage. And you come to collect from me and I'm like, come hell or high water, you're going to sue me in court. So I'll be damned if you don't. So he wins a money judgment against me because I damaged him $140,000. It's called a judgment. But a judgment is like a caterpillar in a cocoon, because when it comes out of the cocoon, it evolves into a lien that covers all of your assets like a blanket. So if you try to sell your home and you got equity in it, the lien is going to capture that amount of money out of the equity. Now, I'm giving y'all this example. Sometimes paper's only worth the ink it's written on. You know, I could sue a homeless person, win $1 million judgment, but I'm not gonna get nothing. I got a fancy piece of paper, right? But I'm not gonna get nothing. So I could sue somebody and they refuse to pay me. Well, sometimes you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. That might be the reason. But what if Alabama Power has a telephone pole that crashes through my grandma's house and kills her while she's in the recliner watching wrestling on TV? Well, we sue Alabama Power for $2 million. Alabama Power don't pay us for a full year. We're sending them mean letters, attorneys, and all this, and we know they got the money. So I could have my attorney file a writ of execution with the courts. This compels the court to force the sale of any assets they have to pay the judgment. Writ of execution, I doubt, will be a right answer, but it's one of those that is often thrown around as a wrong answer choice. So I kind of want to give you a brief explanation of things, so when you see it, you'll know it's not the right answer. Lis pendens, we've already had the conversation. It's a warning. If I'm going to buy property from you and I'm in the courthouse and I pull the property up, a red flag, figuratively speaking, pops up and says, "Hey, Mark, pull your antennas up, pay attention. The dude that owns the property is involved in a pending lawsuit and a lien could come about in the very near future, and you don't want to buy the property the damn day after they file the lien." So lis pendens, again, is a warning, means litigation pending. It's Latin. An attachment, again, wrong answer choice often, but never the right answer. In the left-hand margin, you can write freezing assets. I don't know if you've ever heard that slang terminology. Somebody froze my assets. You know, maybe one day I get a letter from the IRS. "Mr. Yarber, we've determined you misreported your taxes from the years 2020 through 2022. You, in fact, owe us $48,000. I ignore the letter. They send me another one. I ignore it. They send me another one. I ignore it. Now they send me the last threatening letter. I'm still burying my head in the sand. But one day I'm at a restaurant with my old lady. I give them a credit card. They decline it. I'm embarrassed. I hand them another card. They decline it. I'm embarrassed. I give them another one. 3 in a row. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, "Will you hold my girlfriend hostage while I go to the teller?" So I go to the teller. It eats my damn card. Because see, the IRS has frozen my assets. I'm going to remind you of something we've already talked about. A lot of times when people who are getting sued know they're going to lose, they're just going through the damn ritual, but the evidence is there. If they're anticipating a judgment coming against them, they try to sell off all their assets to their family and friends, so that the day they lose in court, they look across the courtroom, go, "I ain't got nothing." Trying to have the last laugh. You see where I'm coming? That's a strategy. So when the IRS, they sense that you might do that, so they freeze your assets so that, by God, when they win in court, there is in fact something there to get. So again, attachment is the nerd word for freezing assets. The rest of the liens are just random liens that they're putting down that aren't important for the exam, and state inheritance tax liens for this, for the bail bond, corporate. IRS tax lien to stop it. I'm going to remind you of something we've already talked about. Whenever a person bankrupts, the courts retrieve your assets, they sell them. The result of the sale is a pot of cash. They invite all the people that suffered from your financial ruin, Sears, Capital One, whatever. And they say, "Hey, y'all, we just sold all of Mark's stuff. We got a pot of cash. Y'all come on in and maybe you can get some of the money." Remember we said there's going to be a line of people, the priority established by chronologically when they recorded. But do you remember this? The state of Alabama, if I owe the state income tax or property tax, they're always at the first of the line. They get priority. But the IRS don't. I was amazed at this when I was a student like y'all, because we all know how powerful the IRS is. They got to get in line with damn Sears and Capital One and GMAC. They ain't giving no priority or favoritism. Could be something you need to know on the exam. And guys, not everybody gets some money. Okay, the state will dip in, they're first in line. They'll dip in the pot, get what's owed them, walk away. There's some money left. The next person steps up, gets what's owed them, walks away. Everybody gets what's owed them. It's just the further back in line, the riskier position you're in, because it's likely not going to be any by the time they get up. Turn the page. We're not going to do the 15 minutes on this. You can do it outside of class, though, and you'll have 4 days after tonight, 5 days. But let's turn to page 309, unit 16. Okay. Real estate appraisal. We've already agreed as a class that 8 out of 10 transactions for real estate involve someone having to get mortgage financing. So I'm not just suggesting appraisal is only important to a lender. Appraisal is important to anybody. I can order an appraisal on a property even though I'm not getting a mortgage. I want to make sure I'm not overpaying for something, right? But typically we deal with appraisals that are a part of the mortgage, okay? Value is a difficult thing to determine in America because we live in a free market based on supply and demand. So often the value of something has nothing to do with the physicality of it or what its function is. It can be very arbitrary. You know, I may own a lot of Kraft stock. I don't even know if Kraft is an entity that offers stock, but we all know what the hell Kraft is. I own some Kraft stocks, probably a very dependable stock, as you would imagine, been around 100 years, right? But wake up and read the paper in the morning, the damn CEO of Kraft just got caught with 25 slave children in the back of his damn house, you know? Damn dungeon, you know? My damn stock is going to plummet, ain't it? At the whim of some weird news, nothing to do with Kraft. Ain't nobody eating Kraft and gotten sick. So it's strange, but it's where we live. Best system the world's ever known and will ever know. But we all understand why value is important. The lender don't want to lend more than something's worth, just like you don't. You know, it's very commonsensical logic. The government's concerned with value, not just mortgage lenders. Why? Government wants to know how much property taxes to charge you, because isn't that based on value? Didn't we just figure that out? Insurance companies are concerned with value because they have to determine the total replacement cost of the object, car, house. And then the premium is established relative to that. That's all based on the value, the appraised value. So certainly mortgage lenders. So you see our learning objectives. We're going to explain appraisal concepts and the processes. We'll distinguish or differentiate, as they suggest, between value and price. And then we'll talk about the 3 methods or approaches to value. I like the word methods better. Turn to the page. So you see appraising in the left-hand margin, first paragraph, highlight the first sentence. Reiterating what I've said. It's an opinion of value based on supportable evidence and approved methods. An opinion of value by itself is dangerous, but then when you add in based on supportable evidence and approved methods, okay, now that sounds a little more reliable. So while I'm an opinion, giving an objective opinion of value, I have to follow federal regulations. I can't just use complete discretion. But again, there's no science in determining value in a fluid economy. The next paragraph, highlight the first sentence. An appraiser is an independent, professionally trained to provide an unbiased opinion of value. An appraiser could not appraise his mother-in-law's house. Okay, he's biased. An unbiased opinion of value in an impartial and objective manner following an identified appraisal process. So yeah, second half of the page, we see appraisers are heavily regulated. There can be a lot of corruption, and there has been, and probably still is, but less now than there ever has been in appraisal, because appraisers, realtors, and mortgage people, we drink. And you know, the mortgage guy, the real estate guy calls his appraiser, Jim, I need to get 240 out of this one. Don't you worry about it. I got you, you know. And the mortgage guy doing a refi, same thing, you know. So what happens? Inflated prices, and just the trickle ends up over time, just blah, 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 blah. Used to be a lot worse than it is now. It's cleaned up a lot, a little more reliable. So at the top of page 311, we see appraiser qualifications. You know, they have a course similar to this one in length and difficulty. They have an exam in similar in length and difficulty. So the barrier to become an appraiser is as low as the barrier to get in the real estate business. And I say that low to challenge your damn ego. It's a low barrier. Y'all, you better jump it. I'm off cuff. My affliction, y'all. What was I talking about?
Qualification.
Yeah. Highlight the bold print, uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. You see parenthetically, use PAP. That is an appraiser's Bible. That is their rules and regulations. Now, is there discretion within those rules and regulations? You have to have an opinion. That's why appraisers have to constantly keep their finger on the pulse of their market area, you know, to see where trends are going, things that's going on that's affecting value here, there, why it's affecting the value. Is this something that's temporary that might be affecting value? Yes, dear?
Appraiser is always.
I don't recognize you, first of all. Oh, I do now. I see you. She's in the way, like she always is.
The company that I'm using.
Okay.
It seems like every time they appraise the house just enough for it to be financed for that much, so.
Is this a mortgage or a bank loan? Okay, so you want to, pardon me, I think I missed pieces of that. You went to apply for a refinance. Okay. The lender cannot select the appraiser.
I guess the real estate company.
It's doled to them. There's kind of a distribution process to make sure. Yeah. Appraisal can't be within the one-stop shop. I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but
So every time I've ever had a house appraised, it's always appraised for exactly what the house is selling for, no matter how much I'm financing it
Yeah.
for. So
it's not, I see where you're coming from. Y'all, I normally repeat the question. This is a scenario and you'll have to forgive me. I would pass it on to you if you needed to. But to answer your question, it's not, I try to sniff out stuff that smells fishy too. So it's not a coincidence that the property uses appraisers for the contract price because okay, but here's the reason. When the realtor arrived at the asking price, they use a watered down version of what an appraiser does. So they're almost using the same processes. And that's why it's not a coincidence that the appraisal usually comes in close to contract price. In fact, the contract on the subject property often is the reason why it will appraise at that, because now this is a comp. I have a contract to use as a you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. We'll talk at break, hon. Yeah, I like good stuff like that. Y'all, I'm sorry. Very indulgent on her part to take away time from y'all to talk about her weird scenario. On page 311 toward the bottom, you know, we've agreed as a class that there's many areas of specialization in real estate. There's commercial, there's residential, and within residential, there's new construction, there's pre-existing. You can do fancy downtown lofts and condos. You can do farmland. In commercial real estate, you got leasing, development, sales, etc. So obviously, in every one of our areas of specialty, there's an appraiser, there's a lender, there's etc. So there's always going to be the same areas of specialty. So you see appraisers have areas of specialty, niches, if you will, that they could elect to focus on as a professional. And they can become a member of a professional association if they choose to. That usually takes some extra education and testing. But the CMA, this is what I was just talking about to the young lady in my class in the very back. This is the watered down version of what me and you do when we try to arrive at an asking price, guys. And pricing property is a very critical skill. And it involves nuance more than science. Do you understand that? You know, because some people have a higher pain threshold. So, you know, as a mother, I know that. I know how much ibuprofen to give this child, how much to give this child. So that's a nuance, you know. You can't read about that on the back of something. And you'll develop some moxie by understanding these nuances on pricing property is what will separate you from the field of mediocrity. Because it's what sells real estate. You know, people will tell you, you know, this house, this listing I had over there in Woodsbury didn't sell. You know, when I took the damn listing, I went in the living room, I told the man, you ain't gonna sell this property with it looking like it is. You better put you know, I'll tell you, a lot of country people. I told them, put a damn fresh coat of paint on it and pressure wash the damn driveway. That is not the reason that property didn't sell, because you can price it accordingly relative to the condition that it's in. So be quick to tell anybody when they give you some BS excuse for why real estate didn't sell that you sounded fancy, but you're wrong as hell. Guys, I can price a property at 200,000 and it sit on the market for the whole listing period and not sell it. Had I listed it at 199.5, I'd have sold it in 30 days. $500 difference. You know, I might be listening to me thinking, Mark, you have the luxury of exaggerating to try to make a point. No, and I'm not. Guys, you know, as adults, we make everything seem more sophisticated, but we are all 10 years old. We have the same emotional needs. We have the same psychology. It's just more mature, but very similar in needs. And we react to pricing. Why do you think we've been falling victim to the $19.99 thing our whole damn life? You know, that ain't that much less than $20, big deal, but you grab it and put it in the damn cart. It's weird. Well, a student said, statistically, is it true that purchasers looking online looking $25,000 increments? That's interesting. I've never heard that, but I can see that. It's a round number. You know, usually the drop downs probably have them in $25,000 increments. You know, like when you say what price range, you wave your cursor over and a little drop down, 200 to 225, 225 to 250. You see what I'm saying? But that's interesting. Yeah, I've not heard that. So listen, let's say my kids walk to school and I send them out the front door with a pat on the fanny and a sack lunch, old school. So, and they get an apple. So every time I'm in a grocery store, I get me some apples. So I'm in Publix in the produce section. I see a wicker basket, big red, beautiful, shiny apple. Somebody took some poster board and with a magic marker put 29 cents per. All right. I start loading them up, you know, I'm gonna get 10. And I look over here, another wicker basket. It's loaded with big, red, shiny, pretty apples. Might be a different kind of apple, but it don't look like it. But there's a poster board on the side of the wicker basket with a magic marker that says 30 cents per apple, 1 cent higher. I could just keep getting the 29 cents and go about my damn business. But you know what? I'm gonna ring the manager bell and wait here for 20 minutes and see if I can get him to get these 31s down to 29. That's dumb as hell. You see, that's my $200,000 house is the 30-cent apple. Because if there's a house $500 cheaper than 200,000 in my block, that's almost my house, maybe with a slightly different facade, the statistical likelihood is going to get sold before mine. So, you know, you can do a CMA. We just said this is a watered down method that me and you use to arrive at an asking price. And let's say it says 270. I list the property and I'm about to key in 270 on the MLS, but I arrived in the neighborhood. And I see a home four houses down for sale with a sign and it's 269.9. I'm like, damn. I'm not going to put it at 270, even though the CMA, my analysis says 270, right? So I don't use homes on the market within the analysis, but ultimately I will consider them before I pull the trigger on a price. The apple, you see what I'm coming from? You 269, I'm 270, but it's almost the same house. No, I'm coming in at damn 269.8. You know, back in my day, we had to put ads in the paper. So you get the Sunday paper, you know how big a newspaper was, or do y'all? Damn, all the open house listings, you know, it looked like the same house for sale, slightly different pictures. And what is realtors? They price properties in round numbers, you know, 500, you know, 200, 195.5, etc. The brain, y'all, is weird. We all know that. But it's very powerful. And its job is to make sure we don't die. I don't know if y'all know the human being's two prime directive is don't die and procreate, period. So the eye is constantly looking for something that fits out of the ordinary. Constantly. Because it needs to know about it to ascertain its risk level, right? Just like a cat or a dog. So I would price my property at weird prices. $197,613.22. That could be a tiny listing and a C on a page. I guarantee you open the page, your brain will find it within about 2 seconds. Just an odd price is what drew the eye. And frankly, there's a formula called AIDA, A-I-D-A. You know, if I'm going to write an ad and I'm going to pay monies for it, it don't matter how pretty the ad is, the picture, the words. If you don't see the damn ad, I wasted my money and the time it took for me to come up with the ad. So if I don't get their attention, then it's a waste of money and time. So I've got to figure out, in addition to my marketing, how am I going to make sure they see it? Pricing properties, again, nuances. Nuances. Turn the page. Broker price opinion, put a huge X through it. Do not be tempted to read it. As a school, I made a business decision to not teach it. I never hear nuggets. It angers me, frankly. That's my own weird psychology. The appraisal process, we have referenced it. We've said that while appraisers give an objective opinion of value, they do have to follow approved methods. Bam, the appraisal process. You see an illustrated version of that on the next page. I want you to go down to the next to last gray box and put a star to the right. A nugget. I've had a student tell me there's a question on the exam that says, what's the most important step in the appraisal process? The answer is the reconciliation of values. I'm not going to explain what that means now, but I will in about an hour. But for right now, that's a nugget. You got a star by it. You'll see it when you flip it. And appraisers can't construct their own forms. Okay, they have to use government-approved forms. It's called the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report. When we turn the page over the next 6 pages, we'll see an example of that government form. You have probably seen real estate and the information about properties in such form or manner somewhere in your life. On page 314, this is all the information, either be it specific to the property or the area surrounding it, on this page. And then on page 315, the comparables that are similar to the subject property. You hear people call them comps. And there are 3 vertical columns for 3 comps. You want to think, coincidentally, I just used an Apple example, but you want to think of the first method that we're about to discuss. The comparison method is you're comparing apples to apples. So I find 3 apples similar to the subject apple that I've been hired to appraise. In fact, I'll give you a nugget now. I've had a student say, there was a question on the exam, Mr. Yarber, that said, what's the minimum number of comps required to do? Do not write that note. In fact, let me finish this. I'm getting ahead of myself. Turn the page. Guys, these are very canned reports. The appraiser's literally just clicking, 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 drop downs, click, drop downs, click, click. But if the appraiser feels the need to use their own words to address something, there is a place for their narrative right there. The next 3 pages are just an explanation to the reader of what market value is, what the purpose of an appraisal is, the appraisal method, the qualifications of the individual appraiser, etc. It's just fodder. And then I want us to end up on page 320. Now we're going to start the academic, the non-real estate conversation about value as an academic concept. At the top of the page, they give you a nice little acronym, DUST. In other words, these are the elements of value. Highlight that left-hand margin box. This is on the exam. The elements of value, in other words, value being a recipe, what are the 4 ingredients? You must have demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. Let's break those out. Demand is part of supply and demand. If there's no demand for something, why would it have any value? There's a reason my ex-wife is still unremarried. Utility. utility in this context is not deriving from the power company. Utility is deriving from the word utilize. Real estate's value will always be commensurate with what it could best be utilized for. Scarcity, the world is a finite supply of real estate. It's not an endless supply. You hear old timers say they ain't making no more of it. And scarcity is an important ingredient in the concept of supply and demand. And then transferability. And transferability has to do with marketability. We've already talked about that, haven't we? The condition of the title. Is it marketable? That's what transferability means. So based on a nugget I've heard from students, there'll be a question on the exam that says, which of the following is not an element of value? They'll have 3 of those and 1 that don't belong. And if you want to write it down, I believe when a student told me this, I said, I'll be damned if I didn't have that on my exam. Need will be the answer because need is not an element of value. Now, as you're writing that down, you're probably thinking, dang, it sounds like it is. Sounds like need and demand are related to each other, Mr. Yarbrough. Hopefully you think like that. But, you know, let's say I'm homeless and I'm hungry and I'm penniless. And I'm standing outside a baker's window. And behind the sheet glass, there's a pyramid of donuts. And behind the pyramid of donuts stands the baker. I'm looking through the plate glass, looking at the donuts, looking at the baker, looking at the donuts, the baker. And the baker's looking at me, looking at the donuts. Until I put any money in the baker's hands, those donuts have no value to the baker. So need has to be supported by the ability to purchase or need to be an element of value. So if you translate that to real estate, I either have to have the cash or the ability to qualify for mortgage financing. So need alone, in other words, is not on, it has to be supported by purchasing power. So market value, y'all know, I think I have told you, and if I haven't, because, you know, I don't know what I've told you, you know. You remember I've told y'all the story about me taking my lady on a vacation. You remember all the romantic time we had last time we were, that wasn't me. Has that never happened to y'all? Oh my God. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Market value, huh? It will. I think a lot of people in the modern day understand exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all know when I'm teaching, I got a billion things going like a tornado in my mind. So, one of my virtual students, quit with the excuses, Mark. He's right. So, you know, I'm the king of analogy. That's what I am. Don't challenge me. I've struggled to teach market value because it's a recipe that has to have a certain number of ingredients. Because here's the thing. If I'm an appraiser and I've been hired to appraise 1113 Rosebud Lane, that's my subject property. I look for properties similar to this in every dynamic. Same construction style, meaning if it's a brick subject, I want brick comps. Same architectural style. If it's a 2-story, I want 2-story comps. And I want 3 comps that have sold nearby recently. I don't take into consideration in the formula properties that are on the market with a sign in the yard. Because you can't trust an asking price. Y'all, a pair of shoes I got on, I probably paid 150. I could go to a consignment shop and say, sell these for 1,000. You can't, you see where I'm coming from now. You can't trust an asking price. So, the 3 comps are what I'm going to rely on. Again, going back to the simplicity, apples to apples. These are what I'm going to use within the formula to help me arrive at market value. So if there's something that existed in the sale of this property I'm considering to use as a comp, it might say, I can't use you as a comp because this existed. Kind of like I want to join the military, but I got diabetes. No, I'm not going to take you in the military. That's maybe a silly analogy, but damn it, it's not too bad. For instance, I got a subject property. They want to know the value of it. They've hired me to appraise. I key in all the things about my subject property and hit enter, and my fancy software program explores the database, searching for identical cookie cutter duplicates. it's not gonna find three identical cookie cutter duplicate. That's a hard damn thing to say, nevertheless. Because we don't live in an ideal world. So it's gonna have to stretch, but it's gonna try to find the three closest. So it spits out three. This one sold for 100. This one sold for 100. This one sold for 90. This one don't look $10,000 worse than these two. In fact, I like it a little better. The backyard's a little flatter and nicer. Why did that sell? So like a detective, I gotta figure out why did this sell for 90. Now, some of y'all know this, some of y'all don't. I am entitled to see the purchase agreement on the recent sale of this home, okay? So I get the purchase agreement and I see, oh, the owner was a woman that sold it to her son. Mystery solved. Now, it's solved in my head. Is it solved in your head? Man, do you nod your head? Yes, I'm gonna call on you. Why is it solved in your head? Yeah, mama gonna sell something cheaper than the market value, so I cannot use that sale as data in the formula, right? I have to eliminate that $90,000 comp. Let's say there's an opposite scenario. 100,000, this one's 110. Scratching my head. This don't look $10,000 nicer than these two. I asked for the purchase agreement. I said, oh, owner financing. My mystery solved. Is yours? I don't expect y'all to know the answers. I know I'm funny and I'm harsh sometimes, but it's all in the name of fun. Why do you think you had an answer for the first one? Why do you think the 110, why it's so for 110 is a mystery solved in my head when I find out it was owner financing?
Financing, because it is owner financing, so the owner's not going to get $10,000.
Bingo. As a detective, that might not be the reason, but the statistical likelihood is the reason there was owner financing is because the buyer couldn't get mortgage financing. Have you ever heard the old saying, beggars can't be choosers? When you're down on your knees, credit-wise, life don't give a damn about you. You pay more for things, higher interest, etc., you know? So beggars can't be choosers. She said the seller says, okay, since I'm doing you a favor, I'm gonna raise the price a little to absorb my favor. That's exactly right. These are nuances, okay? Now, imagine this. I'm going to give you one more example. I want to frame your thoughts. Imagine the person, you can close your eyes and vision, the person you care about more than anybody in the entire world. Just picture that person. That person comes to you and says, I'm in a pickle. I need to borrow $100,000. And I've been thinking about this because I know you got it and I know you would lend it to me and I know you would feel uncomfortable too because you know I would be taking advantage of our friendship. So I've come up with something. I own a property worth 100,000. Will you buy my property? That way I got 100,000. I can get out of my pickle, but you have an asset that you can rent, flip, sell. You see what I'm saying? Pretty fair, right? Damn it, y'all nod your head or something. God. That's all you gotta do. Like you're driving down a country road in a truck, you know? All right, give me a damn knuckle. I forgot what I'm. Yeah. So you think, you know, you say to your friend, God bless you. You did know that would make me feel uncomfortable. You knew how I would feel, and you made this fair. That is fair, and I will do it. And I got a full plate today and tomorrow. Let me get back with you Thursday. But Wednesday, you go over on that neck of the woods where that house is. And there are about 4 within 3 blocks that are just like, you know how homes in a subdivision are? And they all selling for 80. Now you scratching your head, ain't you? My friend wants 100. Everything like it's 80. So you call your friend, don't you? You know I'm gonna help you, but I can't give you 100. I'll give you 80. You see where I'm at? You're the lender in that analogy. I'm asking the lender for 100,000. The lender trusts me, but they're gonna go out and look. And if everything else is 80, they're gonna say, come on, Mark. You know I'm willing to lend you some money, but I ain't lending you 100, I'll lend you 80. That's exactly the thought behind a lender. Back to market value. You know, the first bullet says the buyer and seller are unrelated and acting without undue pressure. If I got 2 months to sell my home because my mama's dying in Minnesota and I got to get up there to help her financially and emotionally and be close to her, am I going to end up probably selling it for less than it's worth? See, y'all see the common sense behind this. You ain't got to have no college damn degree to understand this. How about the second bullet? Both buyer and seller are well informed of the property's use. If I'm unaware of the fact that there's 1 billion gallons of oil a half mile below my property, am I going to end up probably selling it for less than what it's actually worth? Yeah, because I'm not informed. A reasonable time is allowed. That's the same as the first bullet, undue pressure. Payment is made in cash or its equivalent. We just established that. If you walk in a car lot with a briefcase full of cash, you're going to get a discount, okay? So a home that there was cash paid for it, the reason it sold for less than others similar to it, I understand when I see that it was a cash deal. So that might be a reason I would eliminate that as a comp. So now we're down to market price. This angers me, y'all. I don't know why I didn't pass all these tests, and I don't know why I still get angry over it. But market price just means that's what it sold for. The market price of 1121 Salisbury Steak Avenue was $129,900. That's just what the hell it sold for. See, when they put the word market, it makes you think of some academic concept, don't it? It ain't. So unfortunately, gang, on any question where market value is the right answer, market price will be included as a wrong answer choice or vice versa. So that's why we want to know the distinction. Market price is nothing fancy. It's just what it sold for. Now, market value is what we've been talking about. So over here on page 321, you know, you got basic principles of value. Bunch of academic stuff. Y'all, when I say, you know, do this and suggest a bunch of crap, I'm not discounting the importance of knowing things. I love to know crap. My affliction makes me, you know, kind of like an idiot savant, eyes roll back in their head and they can play Beethoven, you know, I just absorb information. I hate it. So I love knowing crap. I'm just trying to assuage your anxieties if you're thinking you got to be a big shot and know all these damn words when you get into business, because you don't. Go down to the bottom, put a star right there by highest and best use, because that could be on the exam. Let me explain that. Because I remember being y'all, being a student. And when I'd be out driving around, hell, I was looking at real estate like I never had, you know, because I'm knee deep in it, man. I remember being on a periphery street on an outer, older residential area. If y'all know where Silvertron's Cafe used to be down in that neck of the woods. And I'm driving down the street. There's a home, dog doing business in the front yard. Right next to a home, kids chasing each other in the backyard. Right next to a home that's been converted into a wedding boutique. Over here, home, man getting out of the car after a long day at work in the driveway. Home been converted into a consignment shop. So since I'm like y'all, I'm confused. I'm like, is this a residentially zoned street or is this a commercially zoned? Mark said that you got to be one or the other. So I'm wanting you to see where I was confused. I wanted to know why this exists, because you've seen it too, haven't you? Think of Green Springs. You got old homes on Green Springs. You got liquor stores. You know, you got all kinds of stuff on Green Springs. Here's why that exists. A lot of times when you have a city that's just, the business growth is just burgeoning, man. It's just pushing out. It's an aggressively growing city. Then they got to kind of, you know, to let the dam down, you know, when the water starts piling up, to avoid an emergency, they let the dam down, let the water flow. Well, that's kind of the thought. They'll go into older residential streets that are on the periphery of the city, like spokes on a bike, you know, and typically they're older homes, and they'll rezone that street commercial. But they're not going to come in there at gunpoint and force you to run a business or vacate immediately. Whoever was there when the zoning change took place are grandfathered. Y'all know what grandfathered means. We get to continue. So if me and my family living on that street and they change the zoning to commercial, we get to continue using it as a home. But when we transfer title down the road by gift, sale, or death, guess who the new owner's got to do? They got to comply. So as you would imagine, sometimes there's a 30-year transitional period, like Green Springs, where you've got old homes that are grandfathered and you've got businesses, etc. So let's say I'm that family and I'm grandfathered living on that street. I come in from work, lay my briefcase down, and that's my mind sometimes when I'm in my past. Because yeah, I remember getting a big shot when I was 26. Had my briefcase, boy, I took it everywhere. Well, I went into Burger King in the morning with my damn briefcase, set it on the damn table, you know, made sure everybody saw me too. By God. Nevertheless, where in the hell am I? Oh yeah, yeah. We sitting at the dinner table and the wife says, honey, I heard in the break room, get me a cup of coffee today that the interest rates on mortgages have fallen. Maybe we ought to look into refinancing, lower our monthly nut. I say, tomorrow, let's go grab a bite to eat. You take the second half of the day off. I will too. We'll go, apply for a refinance and then later we'll do whatever we want to do. We'll go get a drink. So we go apply for a refinance. Do you know what a part of a refinance is? An appraisal. So when the appraiser comes out to appraise my property on this refinance, are they going to appraise it as a residential property or a commercially zoned property? Commercially zoned. Even the fact that it's being used for residential right now is coincidental. What is this property's highest and best use at this moment? What it is currently zoned for. Okay, so that's how the principle of highest and best use would come into play as far as your thinking, your logic. Turn to the page. Page 322, increasing and diminishing returns. Yeah, sometimes you move into a neighborhood. Let's say you move into a fancy neighborhood, $800,000 houses, but you hit the lottery, 300 million. But you know what? You don't need a big fancy house. You like your 800. I mean, hell yeah, let's say nice house, right? But now you got some millions of dollars. So you do some fancy improvements inside and you have your friends over. You like it? You like it? They're like, holy hell, we love it. This is fantastic. This is what it's like to have that kind of money, huh? Yeah. And the next thing you know, you add 3 floors to the top, and then I got a dirt go-kart track out in the back, you know what I mean? I got me a wrestling little place, where I have my beer drinking friends come over on Saturdays and get drunk and wrestle. And we squirt them with a hose, See, I was increasing the property. Now I'm not. Now I'm not. Now I'm not. Now it's decreasing. I'm still doing crap, but it's decreasing. It's decreasing. In other words, have you ever heard someone say, "Don't overbuild in this area"? If I make a $200,000 house as fancy as a $700,000 house, I ain't gonna be able to sell it because people that want $700,000 houses want to be around other $700,000 houses. So you can overbuild for that area and you now have diminishing returns. Let's take that to plastic surgery. You ever see, I don't know where I'm going with this. Y'all ever seen the before and afters on the internet where somebody just got a little too out of control over a 10, 20-year period of time? They look like the Elephant Man eventually. They probably got one, went home to their girlfriends. What do you think? My God, you look so young. And then, by the 8th one, they're like, So yeah, increasing, diminishing returns. The bottom, this will be the last thing we do before we take a break. Plottage value, this could be a math question, and you kind of want to hope it is. John, you're up to snuff. You know what's going on. Plottage value. All right, so much like I can buy a used car for $1,000, take it home and just put some elbow grease into it, detail it, wax it. I might be able to sell it for 400 more than I paid for it. Have that thinking right here. I see 3 lots. I see 3 lots for sale. Contiguous lots. That's a nerd word for, all connected. They $5,000 a piece. I buy all 3 up, $15,000. No, 5,000 a piece. I buy them all 3, 15,000. Now, 6 months ago, this area was zoned R1, which is single family residential. Now it's been rezoned multifamily. You can build up to a 10-unit apartment building. So I'm just gonna put some elbow grease. I ain't no investor. I ain't gonna build no apartments. I'm going to assemble these lots. That's the nerd word. into one lot, thereby erasing the property lines. Now I've made it attractive to an investor who knows he ain't got to come in there and do all that damn resurveying. It's already been done for him. So he buys it to build the 10-unit apartment building. I paid 15 for it, did that little bit of work, put a wax job on it, assembled them into one, and now I sell it for 23,000. What's my profit? Y'all can't look up there and see that? Are y'all just trying to be funny now, ain't you? You really are, ain't you? $8,000. That's my profit. Okay. This is my plottage value. So they'll have such a question. This will be offered as an answer choice, and this will be offered as an answer choice. What you sell it for after you assemble is not the plottage value. The profit is the plottage value. Okay. Guys, this is so academic. There ain't no players out in the streets talking about assembling and plottage. I can trust you. I mean, this is all academic crap. Principle of regression and principle of progression. You'll have these on the exam. You'll have one of those questions. Guys, every now and then, for a variety of reasons, you'll see a large home nestled amongst a bunch of smaller homes. I think of Crestwood near Mountain Brook. I think of Homewood. You know, these are post-World War II neighborhoods with little 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes, little 1,600 square feet, cute. But you know, Crestwood right there next to Mountain Brook, Homewood, got the school system. So people will come in, they'll pay $500,000 for these damn 1,600 square foot homes and demolish them. And then build a gargantuan, 3,900 square foot, 3-story house. Well, that large home, now Homewood's a rare exception to many pricing principles, I can't put a finger on it. It's weird, the pricing at Homewood, but nevertheless, I'm getting out of control. What am I talking about? Shit. Yeah, I got it. I'm back. A large house nestled amongst a bunch of smaller ones, its value will suffer right there compared to if you were to pick it up and then set it in a neighborhood amongst its own size. Its value is going to hurt, right? But the opposite is true. A small home that might be weirdly nestled amongst a bunch of larger homes, its value is going to be greater here compared to if you were to pick it up and set it in a neighborhood amongst its own size. So the small home benefits from the principle of progression. Like I got a couple of hitters, friends, they 6'2", 6'4" like me, and we got another friend that's 5'7". When we was young and clubbing, he had a better shot if he went with us. Principle of progression. Y'all didn't see that? God almighty, I'm the king of analogy. That was beautiful. My talents are wasted. Top of page 323 is where we're going to come back when we get back from our break. Y'all go enjoy the break. Let me pull it up.
And that is five people.
Hey, let me just chat. Who in here uses Chat GPT? Chat GPT. You do? What have you used it for?
I'll go back and switch phone stuff, just random little assignment stuff.
How about y'all? Any of the virtual students, satellite students, y'all ever miss it? A lot of realtors are using them on how to word ads. You know, you put the property, what it's near, what it's like, the distance of the, and say, hey, come up with a, an ad in 30 words. A lot of them use it, to word contingencies, so they want to sound fancy and legal. But y'all, I need to start using it more. Let me tell y'all something. I'm gonna tell y'all something for free. It writes the best poems. Listen, y'all, I went in there and I first did it. I said, I wanted to write my old lady one, it was her birthday, my woman, whatever. Again, we're not married. I said, I want you to write a 150-word poem about my woman. I told her her name, where she's from, her kids age, what her kids like to do, where she grew up, where she moved after that, what she likes to do, what her hobbies are, some of our favorite times, blah, blah, blah. You can have whatever you want to in it. She looks great when she wears this color, they'll integrate that in there, whatever, and it'll spit out a poem, make you cry. I said that. And you know what? If you don't like it, hit enter. It'll do it again at 2 seconds. You don't like it, it'll do it again at 2 seconds. Or if you don't like it, say, do it in 100 words. Do it in 50 words. Do it in 30 words. Do it in 200 words. Put a, sound like a redneck. Sound like an Irish limerick. You know what I mean? You can put whatever. You can say, put it in a very sentimental tone. I want her to cry. You can say, have a slight humorous tone in it, blah, blah, blah. It's amazing. So if you have somebody very special in your life, especially a grandparent, for their birthday, for their anniversary, if your grandparents are both still with us and have an anniversary, write them, don't tell them, make them think it's you, don't tell them. But you want to see people just cry like an 8-year-old, my God. And I wrote like 3 for my old lady before I had to fess up. You know what I mean? She was like, she started getting her eyebrows lifted out there about the 3rd one. But I've done it for other folks, it's wonderful. But, it's just a way of sticking your toe in it and seeing some of the possibilities. A lot of realtors are starting to use it. You can put the size of your furniture. I have a love seat that's 22 by this, by this, and this, and this. And you can say, I have a room that's this many, by this many. What is the best way to set up the room? Or if we have pets and we have to have this bed, what is the best way to set? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I tried to get it to write a book. I'm almost there. I met these 2 people in Key West one time, and they have the most crazy story. And I told them everything as much as I could. I said, could you construct an 800-page novel about this? They were like, yeah, give us a few more little things and we can, I was like, wow. And I got distracted and I haven't revisited, but man, you ain't gonna be able to trust nothing down the road. Songs, movies.
Family friend that wrote a children's book that did artists and the text with AI, and now she sells it and makes money out of it.
Wow. Very cool. Okay, we're at the top of page 323. Going down to the bottom of the page. 3 approaches to value. They put everything in the form of a list, and I hope you do, because the brain learns better from lists. So there are 3 methods. I like that word better. 3 methods that an appraiser can use to arrive at value. The first one is the most common method in residential real estate, called the sales comparison approach. You see parenthetically, also sometimes known as the market data approach. I've never heard market data except by a nerd in a book, but I had a student give me a nugget. He said, Mark, they tried to get all nerdy on me. They didn't call it the comparison approach. They call it the market data. And I understand because it's data about your local market in a database and you're trying to extract it. But guys, let's turn the page. The comparison approach. You see it on page 325. You see 5 vertical columns. The far left vertical column are the fields. And then you got the subject property vertically, answers in all the fields, and then the comps to the right. And you see the sold price underneath the comp because you do not put homes that are on the market. You put homes that have sold recently. And as it goes down, you will see that they either put same, better than, or poor than. Did I skip? I did, y'all. My bad. I skipped something that's important for me to explain some of this. Go to the bottom of page 320. I accidentally skipped cost. Bottom of page 320, cost. This is a very important concept to understand, and also not only to understand it, but to be able to explain it. Cost does not equal value. If I have a $400,000 house and I spend $100,000 on a pool, I do not now have a $500,000 house. Okay. If I buy a $2,000 used car off Facebook Marketplace and I put $3,000 worth of fancy sound equipment from Best Buy, I now do not have a $5,000 car, right? I've just got a $2,000 car that probably has better music than any others. The cost does not equal value. And you've got to understand this and be able to explain it. Because you'll go take a listing and you'll have done a comparative market analysis, the CMA. And let's say you arrived at 270. First of all, let me just give you something that's not academic, but you don't want to give the 270 away too quick in the listing presentation. I want to make sure that I'm going to get the deal, okay? Because that's very valuable information. If you just let that come out of your mouth and then they're going to say, nah, let me give it a shot, because you just now gave them information. You know, you did some work for them. So you want to be guarded with what your CMA is until you see they're going to go forward. But a lot of times you'll explain the listing paperwork and you'll be having small talk and you'll get to the end and they're about to sign and they'll say, well, what are you going to price my property at? And you say, well, I did a market analysis and keep my finger on the pulse. I say we marketed at 270. Oh, is that right? Ain't you cute? You'll either list it for 300, huh? Or you ain't got a deal. There's a lot of men that are very condescending like that, okay? They're trying to be nice and not be an a-hole, but that's their attitude, like it or not. Now, your goal is to what? Get a listing. That's your goal. So you need to be able to convince them why they're wrong and you're right. And that's hard to do without sounding condescending and patronizing to a stubborn man. Y'all see where I'm at? So sometimes you got to polish your skills and there's training out there. But I'm not trying to win an argument, because I could win an argument and not get a signature. Winning an argument don't put food in my children's belly. I got to get ink. So I got to convince him he's wrong and I'm right. So you need to understand this concept. Cost does not equal value. Now, some of y'all are smart enough to know that the 2 parts of the home that you will get a bigger bang for your buck is the kitchen and the master bath. Rarely do you get a dollar for dollar return. Rarely do you spend 30,000 and get 30, regardless of what you're doing. You're usually only going to get 1% of what you spend. You spend, you know, the rule of thumb right now, and it's fluid too, how much you get per dollar spent on certain improvements. It's fluid relative to the market. But right now, you're going to get about 90% of an improved kitchen back in increased values. So if I spend $40,000 on that's about what it takes to really redo a kitchen, I'm going to get about, 95% of that, 90% of that, which is about 36, 37,000. I'm not going to get a dollar for dollar return. Yo, my ex-wife, within 6 weeks after our divorce, she got a certain kind of operation. I can assure you, regardless of how much it cost, she wasn't worth a nickel more. Right? Cost does not equal value. But you know, I hear my people, realtors, making fun of consumers. He didn't even know what an appraisal was. They come back to the office making fun of the people they just spent time with. He didn't even know what damn PMI was. And I've gone up to him and I've gotten mad. I'll be like, man, don't you ever let anybody outside of us hear that, damn it. I need for the consumer to have a certain amount of lack of information. Or what the hell would I have to offer the public? You see what I'm saying? I love them not knowing. Lay people are entitled to have lay people perspective because that's why we call them lay people. Here's a very simple example that you're going to understand. Let's say I buy a $200,000 house. And my house has got carpet and linoleum in it. But you know, maybe the inventory's slim. I had to buy this house. It's not my favorite one, but there's just not much available and the interest rates are going up. So I commit, I buy it. And it's got carpet and linoleum, like I said. And you know what I am? I'm better than damn carpet and linoleum. So I hire a contractor. I say, I want hardwoods throughout and ceramic tile in the kitchen. They get to work. Now remember, I just paid $200 for it. They spend 6 weeks putting my new flooring in, $25,000. The next day, I go to the mailbox and I get the mail out, and there's a letter from my employer. I busted open. They say, Mr. Yarborough, we're relocating you to Austin, Texas. And I'll be like, I'll be damned. I just got my pictures hung, got my boxes unpacked, got my beautiful floors. I was about to have a little house party, man, so I could show it off to my friends, and now I got to move. So I call my realtor that I just bought the house from. I say, this is your lucky day. You about to get the double dip on me. I got to relocate to Austin. Get over here, bring you a sign. So yeah, sure enough, your realtor comes back, puts a sign in the yard and in the living room doing the paperwork. And what do you think this man wants you to put the house on the market for? 225. He paid 200. He just spent 225. That's reasonable logic, isn't it? It's wrong, but it's reasonable. And that's why you have to be able to convince them why adding 2 plus 2 is not the way you do it. The market determines, and you use that by using aggregate data, you know. And you know, part of sales training is you'll learn how to convince people of things, how to close the deal. So yeah, it's important that you understand cost is not equal value, but dig this. Let's say I have a database with 1,000 properties in it. They all have 4, 2.5. Now let me stop. Not 1,000, but 996 are 4, 2.5. Everything else the same. They're all the similar properties, but 4 of them are 4, 2. Do you see where I can see compared to all the 4, 2.5s, how much less 4, 2 sell, regardless of how much it costs to add a half bath? 4, 2s tend to sell for $8,500 less than 4, 2.5. So an appraiser now knows the adjustment for a 4, 2 is $8,500. So let's turn to the page now. Look at the vertical columns again, page 325. The appraiser is going to look at every feature area to determine if the comparable is the same as the subject, better than the subject, or poorer than the subject, and then an adjustment will be made. So let's move down on column A. Should be the same, but go all the way down to where you see better. So the exterior condition for the subject property is average in the opinion of the appraiser. And using pure discretion, you know, no fancy math, they think it's A is a better exterior condition, and in the discretion of the appraiser, about $2,500 better. So they're going to make an adjustment of minus $2,500. The property sold for $262 at the back, at the top. They're going to subtract $2,500 from that because they're trying to arrive at what the value of the property is. So look, if it's poor, then they're going to add the value of what the comp doesn't have that the subject has, because you want the comp to be the subject on paper. So if the subject has 2.5 baths and the comp only has 2, you're going to add what a half bath creates in value. All of those words say you're going to have this question. Comparable A is better than the subject property in the area of bedrooms. Do you make a negative adjustment, or do you make a positive adjustment to what the comparable A sold for? You make a negative. It's almost the opposite of what your brain wants to say, you know? So think of a bar graph, better's up here, poor's down here, right? Think of a bar graph, positives up here, negatives down here. So if the comp is better, you make a negative adjustment. If the comparable is poor, you make a positive adjustment. I'm just telling you all the weird ways my brain works when I visualize to remember, but you will have that question. Now, there's one reason why I cannot do a comparison approach as the appraiser. And the reason is lack of comps. Here's a nugget. I've had a student tell me there's a question on the exam that says, what's the minimum number of comps required in order to do a comparison approach? Three. A lot of courage right there. God bless you. You need a tattoo and a beer. Cost approach is what you do when you can't do the comparison approach. Why would I have a lack of comps? Rural area. What's one more reason? A unique property. Let's say a small church has outgrown itself and they're going to use the building fund and build a bigger church. How many churches sell from one month to the next, even in big cities? Not many. And if 3 or 4 happen to have sold, what's the likelihood they're comparable to this one? So it's either a unique property, which means lack of comps. So they're both lack of comps, rural or unique. So then I do the cost approach. Well, what's the cost approach, Mr. Yarbrough? Well, let me pull up the whiteboard. Uh-oh, I got a couple of chats. Nope, 3. You're late, John. You're late. But you are correct, John. You can't get anything past John. Here we go. So I'm an appraiser. Can't do the comparison approach, lack of comp. So I'm doing the cost approach. I'm just going to determine what the land cost as though it were naked. Okay. And then I'm going to add the labor and materials that would be responsible to, that would be needed to rebuild the house. Then I'm going to subtract any accrued depreciation. Nerd, let me explain. And then I simply do the math, and there is my cost approach value. So what's accrued depreciation, Mr. Yarbrough? Here's what it is. So let's say I'm in a rural area. Lack of comps is the reason I'm doing a cost approach. We'll say we're in Elba, Alabama, Bruton, Alabama. The home is only 2 years old. And y'all, I promise you, if you look at the roof of a 2-year-old home, you know what it looks like? Brand new. But is it not mathematically 2 years closer to needing to be replaced? Can I come up with what a year's worth of roof costs? Yeah, most roofs are 20 years. Don't argue with me on this, Mr. Roof, but 20 years, and let's say it's a $10,000 roof. 10,000 divided by 20 years gives me what? $500 a year. So if it's a 2-year home, how much roof am I going to subtract right here? 1,000. 500 a year. 2-year-old home, the accrued depreciation on the roof is 1,000. So I'm gonna do the accrued depreciation on the heat and air, on the carpet, and on the roof. But all you need to know is what you're looking at on the screen, guys. Now, if you turn the page, you see that in real life, it's more sophisticated and fancy. They break it down to cost per square foot and all that fancy stuff. But guys, I'm telling you, what's on the board is what you need to commit to memory. Land plus the cost to reconstruct the property minus accrued depreciation. It's real simple. So depreciation, guys, depreciation has a tax context. Some of y'all might be bookkeepers or know a little bit about taxes. We're not talking about the tax context. We're talking about the literal definition of depreciation. Everything is worth less today than it was yesterday. I'm in worse shape than I was yesterday. That table is in worse shape than it was. Y'all know where I'm going with it. So depreciation is the word for that. There are three specific kinds. The one at the bottom of page 326 is one you don't even have to insult yourself and write any notes. Physical deterioration, that's self-explanatory. You've let it go to pot, you know, the roof's falling in, you know, it's moldy, whatever. Physical deterioration, very self-explanatory. Top of page 327, you see functional obsolescence. First of all, don't get hung up on the word functional. Ain't got nothing to do with whether stuff in the house functions or not. Again, I told you I give up trying to figure out why they use certain weird words. But here's what it means. This is what you need to know. Functional obsolescence either means, real simply means the house either ain't got features that a normal purchaser wants, or it's got features that a normal person don't want. One or the other. I have an uncle and an aunt like everybody else does, and they live in a shotgun home, and they are so proud of it, and they should. Some of y'all don't even know what a shotgun home is. It's a post-World War II home. And guys, you know, we took the central hallway for granted, the ones we grew up with. It feeds you to the bedrooms and the baths. Shotgun home is just a room, a room, a room, a room. You just interrupted people as you walk from one room into the next. Can you sell a shotgun home? Yeah, but the purchaser of it isn't the purchaser who has normal and typical needs and desires. They are unique. So functionally obsolescent means it either ain't got what the average person wants, or it's got what the average person don't want. Like, it could be, let's say I like old houses, you know, and I do. I like the high ceilings. I like the woodwork, the inserts, the character. And I searched the market for a month, and I find a bunch, and I narrow it down to two. Oh, and I'm having a hard time choosing between A and B. This one's got central heat and air. It's been modernized about 10, 15 years ago. This one's still got window units and all the windows. Oh, which one? Y'all see how silly this is? People ain't gonna do, they're gonna take the damn one with central heat and air. Why? Because this one's functionally obsolescent. So it doesn't have to be the floor plan. It could be a feature or the lack of. But look within functional obsolescence. On the third line, highlight the word curable. Go 6 lines down, right below it, and highlight the word incurable. So functional obsolescence can be deemed by nerds to be curable or incurable. So here's the deal. My grandma passes. She leaves me her 3-bedroom, 1-bath home. And I don't want it. And it's out of my neck of the woods. So I'm trying to sell it 2 or 3 cities away. But it sits on the market for 2 years, and I really don't get a lot of legitimate interest even. I ain't found nobody sniffing around the front door yet. So I realized the problem, nobody wants a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home. So I figure I'm gonna have to add a second bath to make this property marketable. Now, some of y'all know what I'm about to say, some of you don't, but you can get an estimate from a contractor for the improvement. And I can give that estimate to the appraiser, the plans for the improvement. And the appraiser will say, Mark, if you make this improvement, this is what the new value will be. So I get an estimate from a contractor. He said, Mark, it's going to cost you $53,000 to add a second bath. I give the plans for the second bath, and the appraiser says, Mark, if you make this improvement, you're going to get $41,000 of additional value. Why spend 53 to make 41? Do y'all see where I'm at? That would be incurable. It don't make sense on paper, right? So if the profit is going to exceed the cost, then the nerds would say it's curable. It makes sense. External obsolescence. Next bullet as we move down, guys, you know, here's my house and here's the dimensions of my property, my front yard, my backyard. You know. Guys, America used to have a lot of precious factory towns, but NAFTA in the 90s with Clinton made all that go away. You know, 3 or 4 generations of my family worked in Russell Mills in Alex City. You know, we used to be a lot of factory towns. Everybody was proud of where they worked. 80% of the people in the town worked there. So let's say it's back in that day and you live in one of the factory towns and you got the nicest house in town. You got the beautification ward in the front yard. Your house looks like Better Homes and Gardens inside. You're proud of it, and everybody in town knows. Have you ever seen the Scarborough's house? I mean, it's well known. But you wake up and read the morning news and it says the factory closed last night. As you get down the article, as you read down the article, your value is going down simultaneously. Because in a market based on supply and demand, when 8 out of 10 people in the town ain't got a job, do you see where there's no demand for your home and our value is relative to demand? But that was external to my home. That was beyond my control. That's what external means. I didn't have anything to do with it. You know, it was the local economy. In fact, there's a specific type of external obsolescence called economic obsolescence. Because not all external obsolescence is because of the local economy, like the example I use. If they build a chicken farm about 1.5 miles over the hill from your house, and for whatever reason, in the afternoons, you are not inclined to grill out, you know, because it stinks. I bet you may suffer a loss in value. That would be external, right? It's not economic, but it's a damn chicken plant or farm. The next couple of paragraphs is economic life. I made a business decision. I'm not going to teach that anymore. It has to do with depreciating real estate, and that's taxes, and that's more sophisticated than most people know. So I really wasn't coming across teaching it, so it's counterproductive. So I'm just going to skip it. But now we're at the bottom of page 327, and we're at the third of the 3 approaches. The sales comparison, sometimes called the market data. And then sometimes you don't got enough comps. So you got to do the cost approach. But then sometimes it's a special property, one that produces income. So you got to use the income approach. Now, this income approach is not used for single family residential properties. Is it warm in here to y'all? It's not. Wow. Girls will be in hell looking for coats. I swear to God. I mean, God bless you. It don't make no sense, man. You know, I'm going to hell. I don't know if y'all know that. But when I get down there, I'm starting a committee. We're going to get some AC. I promise. Put Mark in charge. But y'all, you would use this income approach that we're about to discuss on like an office building or an apartment building, okay? Let's turn the page. And let's pull up the whiteboard and let's discuss it. I love formulas that make math easy, and there is one of those here. It's called the ERV formula, the I over R time V. Guys, if you wanted to buy a dry cleaner that's been in business for 40 years and been successful, but the man outlived his children, so now he's trying to sell it. You know what? It's fantastic to buy a 40-year-old business, right? They've got a reliable name. You're going to step in and not hope your new business takes in time. You're going to have a steady, predictable flow of income walking in the door. But when I go to meet the man to discuss buying it from him, I'm going to ask him to bring some accounting work, right? I want to see the economic performance, right? Income performance. And specifically, I want to ask him for a profit and loss. That's what you see on page 329. You'll hear some people call it a P&L. This is a one-page accounting form. It's not like a general accounting report that a company will have that'll have 100 pages. This is like a singles profile. It's just meant to give you some hard data, you know, height, weight, you know, turn-ons, turn-offs. So here we go. Let's know what these are. The I stands for income. Specifically net income. The V stands for value. The R stands for rate of return or capitalization rate, y'all. Those are the same thing. That's how much do I want to make? If I invest $10,000, I expect a 20% return. What do I want to make? 2,000. Or did I do the math wrong on that? If I invest 20 and I want a 20% return, I'm going to hope I make 24,000 at the end of the year, 4,000 over and above my investment. That's your rate of return. That insults some people's intelligence. Some people don't know that. The cool thing about this question, and I'm going to anticipate one of your 7 math questions will be an I over R time V question. They might even ask you 2 I over R time V, one being a little more involved than the other. The simple version, I predict, is the one you're going to have, and that's where they're going to give you 2 of the 3 in there. And the cool thing about a formula is you plug them in, do the math, it gives you the third. Makes you look all smart, you know, but really very simple formula. So here's the thing. Let's say I could use this to see what an existing business or apartment building is doing currently, or has done over the last year. Or I could be building a 10-unit apartment building and I want to project an optimum year. Do y'all understand that? Full 100% vacancy, you know what I mean? And I want to see if the amount of money I would make based on an optimum scenario is the amount of money I need to want to make it for me to get involved. You see what I'm saying? In other words, some investors have a predetermined expected rate of return. And if they go to look at an investment and they look at the accounting and they don't see that they're going to make what they expect, then they'll walk away from it. So let's use this example. I'm reading the news Sunday, drinking my coffee, and I see a 10-unit apartment building down by UAB for sale. And they want $531,000 for this 10-unit apartment building. It's 100 years old. You see a lot of old apartments around colleges. And you know what? It's not terrible shape, you know, but it's 100 years old. It is what it is. So, and let's say in this scenario, I have an expected rate of return of 20%. So if I go look at an investment, I don't see me making 20%, then I won't get involved. So have we not just filled in two of these? We have. Did they teach you what to do when you got an X between two numbers? You do multiply. So when I call a man, I'm going to say, bring his P&L. So 531 times 20% is 1062. So I better see 1062 when I go to see the man. Now look at the P&L on the page. Look at the very bottom, net income. Annual net operating income right in the middle of the page. That's the number that's got to be 106.2 or more for me to get involved. Okay. In other words, when the dust settles and all the bills are paid, what do I put in my pocket? Because sometimes, y'all, you can get drawn by gross income. Like gross revenue, man, that building made that much money. But if it's an older building, what might be heavy? The expenses. So my net income isn't good. So gross income but don't get swayed by it. You know, you gotta go at net. That's what people want to know, net. What do I put in my pocket? So let's say I see 93.5. I don't see 106.2, which is what I needed to see. I see 93.5. Can I close my briefcase up and walk away and thank the man for his time? I certainly could. Or I could do what? I just want y'all's wheels to spin. What could I do? Hell, I'm right there with him. I done got in the car, had to put some deodorant on. Negotiate. Okay, how can I negotiate? With what's on the board? You know, okay, hold on. All right, hey, y'all know I don't raise the rent, John. No, I mean, of course you could, but hold on. I want the numbers to look good going in. I don't want to try to fix them. You see what I'm saying? That's what raising the rent would be. You've had your chance, be quiet. So here's what it is, y'all. 93.5 is a known. So that goes up there where the income is. My rate of return ain't changed. I still desire a 20% return. So did they teach you what to do in school when you got a line drawn between two numbers? You divide. So 93.5 divided by 20% gives me 467.5. So I'm going to make him an offer of 467.5. Now, if he accepts my offer based on what it's producing, I'm going to get what I want. So that's the way an IRV works. You know, now look at this. Look at page 329 up at the top. Let's come 4 lines down. Look at where it says less vacancy and collection losses, estimated 4%. What does that mean? It's called a vacancy factor. Because look, here's a P&L. Got gross income at the top. Minus a vacancy factor. This gives me effective gross. From that, I subtract my annual expenses. And then the rest is net income. So what's a net vacancy factor? Remember earlier when I said I could use the I over R to project an optimum scenario? Well, if I project full rent for a full year, I have to take into consideration the vacancy factor in the town I'm in. Every town has one. Let's say in Vestavia, all of the apartment complexes, all of the units available in Vestavia, 96% of them are rented on average. So Vestavia, there's a 4% vacancy rate. Hoover, it might be 3%. You know, you see what I'm at? So if I'm trying to predict an optimum 100% income, I've got to subtract the anticipated vacancy factor. So I can see this is more than likely what I'm going to make. Now, y'all have heard me say, if you're not good at math, don't worry about it. If you look at it and say, hell no, I can't do that, then don't attempt it, move on. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and move on. And I stand by that. And I've had students at break used to come up to me and say, Mr. Yarber, you know, when you pulled out that damn P&L, I remembered you saying it. That's one of them I ain't even gonna get involved with. And I say, you just scared, man. You've been doing this math your whole life. Take out the vacancy factor. Have you never taken what you earned in a month, subtracted your damn monthly bills to see what the hell's left over? Leave it up to Mark to show you how simple it is. Because that's all it is. Y'all see what it is? It sounds profit and loss, gross revenue, vacancy factor, you know, blah, blah, blah. You've done that math a billion times in your life. It's that simple. The vacancy factor just makes it a little more complicated. And hopefully, based on my explanation, you have a semblance of an understanding of what the vacancy factor is for. So the reason I said, more often than not, they're going to say, the value of this building is $531,000. Mark, the owner, is making 20%. What's the net income being generated? Look up at the top. I plug the 531 in, I put the 20 in, and boom, I get 106.2. Or they'll say this property is producing $106,200 of annual income. This represents a 20% return for the owner. What's the value of the building? This divided by 20 gives me that, you know, so I hope you see where it's going. The one way they could make this complicated is not give you net income, but give you gross income and expenses and make you arrive at net income. Kind of like I told you, some of the questions aren't going to tell you the loan amount. They'll give you the purchase price and the LTV, making you arrive at the loan amount. So over here on page 330, and this will be the last thing we talk about for our break. Gross rent multiplier. Now this is what you use to arrive at how much you're going to rent an investment property for. Give you an example. You know how I teach. Let's say I buy my first rental property. You know why? Because I'm about to be somebody in the real estate business, but you got how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. So I bought my first little rental property. Man, I'm proud of it. And I go out there Saturday, you know, I put it on Facebook for rent. And I go out there Saturday with my 409 and my bucket, and I get it cleaned up, the carpet cleaned. I'm out there cutting lanes. And I got a for rent sign in the front yard. Well, a woman pulls over the curb, you know, and she got 2 Rugrats and child seats in the back. She says, this property's for rent. That's what I'm looking for, sir. She sticks her hand out. We introduce. What are you charging for this, sir? And I went, oh, hell, I ain't thought about that. 800? Yeah, 800. That's perfect for me, Mr. Yarber. Let me take my kids to the daycare and I'll be right back, you know, and I think, man, I ain't even had the property. 3 days, I've already got a tenant. I'm going to have no downtime for rental income. Thinking this is groovy. But the whole time I've been cutting grass, my neighbor been cutting grass. And coincidentally, we turn our lawnmower off to take a swig off something, wipe the sweat. We start having neighbor talk. And turns out he's the landlord of that, and he's getting it ready for his next tenant. So I said, how much you getting for yours? He says, $1,000 a month. I said, I'll be damned. Because I pulled an answer out of the air, I just shorted myself $2,400 of annual income. Y'all see that? So this is what this is for. This is a way to determine what everybody else is charging. Because I want to charge what everybody else is getting, right? So here's the example. I got 3 chats. John, you're just trying to hear yourself talk. So let me write some stuff down. let's say I buy my little $100,000 rental oops, too thin. That's what she said. Buy my little first little rental property, $100,000. And I don't know what to rent it for. That's the question. So I do a little research around this area. And let me write some stuff down. I find a $300,000 property. And it's being rented for $2,700. I find a $210,000 property. And it's being rented for $1,900. I find a $60,000 little bitty property. And it's being rented for $550. That looks like an 8, but it's a 0. It's being rented for $550. So I divide this 300,000 by 2,700 and I get 111. I divide this 210 by the 1,900 and I get 110. I divide 60,000 by 550 and I get 109. Guys, I only have a short amount of time for the example. What my point is of doing this is I'm trying to find a reliable average, what we call multiplier. And since I've given you 3, this would be the average, right? Yes, it would be. So what am I going to do with that number to determine what I should rent my little $100,000 rental property? Who said divide it? Why you say it so damn quiet? Of course, that's the right answer. Be proud of it. I'm going to divide it by 110. I was hoping more than one person would see where I was going with this. Y'all better start eating more vegetables, for God's sakes. 100,000 divided by 110 equals 909. I'm just going to round it off and rent it for 910. So here, let me finish. Let me arrive at where we're at. Just like the IRV, this question is going to involve 3 numbers. And just like the IRV question, they're going to give you 2 of the 3, and you can work them to get the third, just like the IRV. Here's how it works. Let's compare these 3 numbers to each other. In comparing them all, isn't this the biggest number? And this is a small number, and this is a small number, right? Point is if they give you the 2 smalls, multiply them together, it gives you the big. If they give you the big and either small, divide it by the small, and it'll give you the opposite small. You see where I'm at? So they may say this property is worth $100,000. The multiplier in this area is 110. What should we rent the property for? Divide 100,000 by 110, get 910. This rent is $910 a month. The multiplier in this area is 110. What should the value of this property be to an investor? 910 times 110 gives me 100,000. So I hope you see where we're going with this. It makes you look smart when you get the right answer. So here's the one way they could make this more difficult. More scratch paper. 910 is a monthly amount of income. Therefore, this is called a monthly multiplier. So what if we took 910 and multiplied it times 12 to determine annual rent? 912 is $10,920. So we determined up here that the monthly multiplier, because it's based on monthly rent, is 110. But if I divide this 100,000 by the annual income of 10,920, I get 100,000 divided by 10,920, I get 9.16. This is called an annual multiplier. So one's based on monthly rent, one's based on annual rent. That's all. You know, it doesn't make it more hard math. It just makes you use a little more scratch paper. So, yeah, that's what gross rent or gross income multipliers is. And now we're at the last thing. We'll go take our break. Reconciliation. What do we say at the beginning of the class? This is the most important step in the appraisal process. So here, as an appraiser, I'm hired to appraise 110 Redbird Lane. I'm gonna do all three approaches: comparison, cost, income. But at the end of the appraisal, in the reconciliation, I'm gonna tell the reader of the appraisal, even though I did all three approaches, the one that's reliable and applicable in this context would be the comparison approach, so disregard the other two. That's what the reconciliation paragraph tells the reader of the appraisal, okay? Frankly, I don't even know if you need to know that. Just remember what I said. Reconciliation is the most important step in the appraisal process. That's what I've heard the nugget is. So guys, we're at our key point review, and guys, I know some of you are gonna skip break and do it, and God bless you, do it. But I say, take your break, let's come back, and then we'll do our 15 minutes. Stand up, take a breath, stretch your legs, and then we'll come back and do the 15-minute. All right, so let's pull our break up. Fancy breakout. Some of y'all want to get, well, 15 minutes, come on. Let's just... Y'all just feel like a garbage bin, and I'm just dumping truckloads of stuff in your head. And you're like, God, it's getting too full.
But I was like, no, to go, it's important.
Yeah, I take it for granted. I know it like the back of my head, obviously, but I remember being open. But I'm just trying to tell you, I was an idiot. Not that. There's a lot of idiots. Don't know how to spell their last name. Swear to God, they ain't got enough school. Don't misspell their own last name. And they're making $30,000 a month, you know, so. Guys, you know, get an ego check, you know, hell, if they can do it, damn it, I can.
Question,
Mhm.
in your experience, do you think that women have a better negotiation skill than men in this business?
Well, it's a right answer. It's a yes and no. Here's the thing, women are more trusted psychologically, you know, you could be a crook, but I won't give you the benefit of the doubt over men, you know. And that can help in negotiations because, you know, fair or unfair, we have a similar reputation in car sales. When you're everybody's there, you get ripped off and get sold a bad car. But here's the thing, typically, women aren't as aggressive as men. So while you're trusted more, you're not able to close the deal. You're not able to negotiate as strongly and as convincingly and as logically as a man, you know, because you're not as logical creatures. And I think that's the way God intended it to be, you know. We're meant to be checks and balances. Y'all fill our puzzle holes, we fill y'all, you know.
I got one that did.
Oh, there's an exception to every rule. I know very strong business women. The backbone must be this thick.
Mayor Rose.
Yeah. But I know some feminine dudes too, you know. I mean, hell, let's keep going with that. Let's go. The gay dudes, man, have it made in the real estate business. Women love gay dudes. They all want a new gay friend. All of them, every one of them. And you know, hey, I have gay friends. They're fun. They're just colorful, you know. You walk away laughing, you know. I got a problem. And gay dudes, man, when I was in the mortgage business, we knew gay clients were the best. They had the best credit. Man, their record keeping was precise. It was unbelievable. Yeah. They handle their business, for sure.
My best friend.
I know.
Yeah.
One of my dear friends, skate fish, pretty much. Big guy, he's the #1 cross country drag queen, and but he's been on the RuPaul show, all that. Start dude, Leland's about 35. And, you know, I probably shouldn't be talking. But he comes over every Thanksgiving. He got no family here in Alabama. And I asked him, I said, "Do you want to do something?" You know, because this is just new last year, but I've been knowing Leland in 9, 10 years, you know. He said, "No, I enjoy being a man." Which kind of caught me by surprise, because you would think a gay man being a drag queen, he got that inclination, but he said, "No, in fact, we're very against this." He said, "They're trying to tell young people, you're not an effeminate male, you're a woman. Transition." you're not a tomboy, you're a boy, and in case people know, they get railroaded in this movie, they know. But yeah, he had a strong feeling about it, he was like, hell no, I'm proud of being a man.
About seven, you doing 7 or 8, okay. You missed by 6, 7, right? Cause that 3 of those maps, correct, as of 7.
That's true, but I'd rather.
But I'd rather focus on like the
chances
40
Somewhere else.
of the Alabama, like the state of it all.
I'll take
The
my
what
chances
now?
somewhere else.
The 40 of the Alabama questions.
I feel like the math is not.
It's more, it's really like,
It's really not
You
that hard to
can-
figure it
yeah.
out, but it's the time, and then you're like,
Taking
you
it.
get nervous.
Right.
And then you're like, let me focus on the wording, understanding the, okay, that's my thing. Just understanding what they're trying to ask.
yeah.
Cause like, when I was doing the next
Yeah,
one,
like, work it out.
when I was taking the test, I was like, let's see that, let's see that, and this is what Mark said, and property, blah, 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 blah. But 2 of them mean the same damn thing,
Yeah.
like it's the same, but different words. And one of them is right, and one of them is not.
Mhm.
I think that's a big part, like you said at the time, and then he also too talked about like, you know, it affects your confidence when you spend too much time on the questions.
Because
It's frustrating.
you gotta keep that pace,
And you spend all that time and still don't get it right, like,
you get frustrated, and then you waste your time, now you are so focused on the math question that's not that important for you to know or know. And not focus on the things that you should have just like kept that focus on, I mean, that's just.
Yeah.
And if you wanna know the math. Then go do it,
yeah. I'm just trying.
you do it, you, I am, yeah.
My friend told me that like she took it and she didn't have a problem with time at all. Like, she looked and she did. so
I mean,
much
it's
time.
3.5 hours.
Yeah, like,
But you don't have the same momentum.
Yeah.
If you're like, okay, I've got 3.5 hours, I'm good, but you get tired,
yeah.
so then it's like, okay,
See, when she took it, there was a break. Like, she had a break. The portions were set up. She took the Alabama part and then had a break and then took the other.
maybe that is how it is, that, wait, it?
She did it in my hometown. She took it
Oh.
in center. But
You know what you say?
Alabama's Alabama.
Yeah.
She said her hometown, what is that, Gatlinville?
center.
That's a whole different area, they do different, like I told you. They're different, because we're doing this at home, right? Your kid's gonna be at home.
No,
No, I'm talking about the state
I was
test.
gonna say, I mean, that's gonna
Yeah.
be where you, whatever, you take, it. Right, it's different. So, hometown has been scattered for it. It'll be like Birmingham.
The state test.
I think it's gonna be the same
Oh,
now.
it's the same, it's gonna be the same, but it's gonna be different, like she said, she had a break. When I was at Austin, it wasn't a break. If you had to really go to the restroom with her, you had to get her attention and let her stop the test. She had to go in.
wait, you took the state exam? How much was GPA? Nobody else.
You take the state, when you take the course.
It's changed since she took it.
When did
Yeah.
you take it?
When I take it, in May. But like I told you before,
So wait, why are you retaking the course? then?
like I'm telling you, the test change was from last year to the first of this year. When I really started, it was last year.
But my friend started the course
know what I'm
last year.
No, I don't.
My
Outlaw,
friend took the
you
course
took
last
it in
year.
May. And what month are we now?
You understand what I'm saying?
No.
No, okay, I started, let's say let's say I registered in November, okay,
Last year.
right? November last year. January first, the test changed.
Okay.
But so you have to take a course first and they give you something to allow you to take the state test. So you took a course before that,
What?
Like this one.
like this course right here that you're in, like Mark has at the end of the course, they'll give us something to allow us to be.
No,
able
they
to
tell
take the
you,
state test.
they tell you it's gonna be the same test, it's just that some things have been dropped out. Some things have been added, and your
So you
affiliated was supposed to let you know.
But did you take a
You did
course,
check.
like, what course did you take?
Like
Like this
Where
course?
we in right here, you can't take the state test without taking this.
I take the test before, the state test.
Like the real estate?
That's what I'm saying, I don't understand why y'all have to go somewhere else, that was confusing to me. Well,
Ask Mark when he come back in here, like you have to take a course test before you're able.
It's like
to
a
take the state
prerequisite
test.
still to take the
before I
state
did,
test.
on the last test, I did.
What course did you take though? Like, did you take his, or
Online.
did you?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Run around.
I'm gonna understand this for a minute.
Yeah, but see, either way it go, it was online.
Yeah,
The whole thing was online. The
It was
entire thing
proctored
was
online.
online. Was online. The whole test,
How many times did you take the state?
this will be my second one.
No, we are not talking about the same thing. You took a course. Did you pass the course?
No, that's
That's
why
why
I'm
you
here.
couldn't take the state exam.
From the state, yeah.
So you had the
No,
With Johnny, when you take, right, with whoever, when you take the state or whatever to get your, okay, to pass the final exam, okay, like, you gotta pass it.
Yeah.
Right, okay, pass that, took the test, which was for the state or whatever, and I made a 67.
You could have taken it again.
And I did, and I made a 67.
They make you take it again.
No, ma'am.
How many
Yeah,
times?
you-
So you been
you-
taking, so this will be your third round.
you have
Right.
6 months.
You wasted
But it's
money in
with, but
here.
it's for someone else, no, it's not. Because with her,
We need
guess
your
what,
help,
what I
Marcia.
wrote?
Yeah, we are. We.
You can take
trying to
this
figure
if
this
you
out.
want. If you
Yeah.
want.
I'm so much on you, are you going
Y'all help me with this explanation.
Okay, wait.
Okay,
Okay, she's saying, so I was talking about how, when my friend took it, sometime last year, she said there was a break in between.
State exam.
State exam, she said there was a break in between. Anyways, whatever.
So we talking
Not
about, he had a question about how many
Yeah,
times
that's
you can take the state. That's
You
what
can take
asked.
the state exam, how
no, my question was, you can't take the state without taking a real estate course prior to.
That's correct.
But if you,
Walk up in there.
but if you fail the state, you can take it again without taking the course.
That's right.
Right.
How
You
many?
can take it, I think they make you wait 2 days between attempts.
Okay,
But I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't wanna get into a long conversation, you will not take it more than 3 times without retaking it.
Okay. So this
Here's
is
the
your
thing.
last time.
Here's the
So that's
reason
why he
why.
said-
Here's the reason
that's
why.
why
Have
he
y'all
said
ever
you
seen the
wasted
prices
money.
right then?
Let's look at that.
Hey, hold on. You got 4 items, and they have 4 prices. And you pull the clock, and you set a price on the 4, you come back and you pull the arm, and you only got 1 of the 4 right. And you don't know which one. Do I switch this one? Do I leave this one? And then you do it, and you pull the arm, I only got 3 right. Which one do I just switch it? And then you switch one, and then boom, I only got 1 right, I switched the wrong one. There's only so many damn questions you can come. I think they try to shuffle the deck, so to speak, right? But there's only so many questions. So what's gonna happen is when you, every time you take it, you're gonna take it a second time, you'll recognize half the questions. And you may even go, chose A last time. Stick with A, you know, because they don't give you the results when you
That's
uh,
fail.
probably one you got
You know,
wrong.
stick with A, you're gonna be. You could be the exam. So you're gonna take it a 3rd time, you're like, Hell, that's a damn question. I had A the first time, I changed it to B, do I stick with B? Did I get it right this time? Do I go? So it's just a mental.
However, you can take it as many times.
Yeah, but I'm saying don't.
Okay, that's-
But you're correct. Every 2 days, I think it's minimum. And, you know, also, sometimes you might get later, they don't have any openings. That's exciting. They don't cut, that's a small.
You just wanted to take it because of what he said, like, I don't.
Like he just said,
Yeah,
when
she understood.
when I took it in May, that was after this school was out, nobody was offering.
Well, here's the deal I offer my students. I'm not trying to make money off of it, but I am a business. So what I do is if you did not pass my course, and you want to take it again. Or if you pass my course and don't pass the state, you fail it 3 times and you follow my advice, I will sell you my virtual course for $99, not $450. That way, you've already sat in these classes. That way you can sit at home, wherever is important to you, the library, your bedroom, and you can, is it another 8 weeks? Pain in the neck, but you've got to keep your eye on the carrot, you know? Because if you end up having a 30-year career. People come to me, Mr. Yarb, I've taken it 8 times. I said, quit. Just quit. And that's contrary, because you don't want to be a quitter, right? You don't want to be a quitter. So I'm saying that might be a good part of you to sort of keep trying because you're not quit, but it's counterproductive. Counterproductive.
Yeah, Angie.
Okay, gang, we're here for our last hour, but we're gonna start off with our 15 minutes. We're now on page 332. Guys, be curious about this. Don't look at this as a chore. Be looking for interesting facts and try to remember examples. Be passionate, be curious. I know it sounds corny, but emotionally, you receive information and retain it when your emotions are proper. Know what you're up against, but also know the goodness that will come as a result of your effort. Because there's a lot of goodness down the road. Oh, a little premature, gang, but let's go ahead and move on. Page 337. All right, I'm not gonna read the learning objectives because we're not gonna teach this whole chapter. Guys, the state of Alabama switched testing services about a year ago. Kind of like going from SAT to ACT, you know, there's companies that do standardized testing in every industry. Alabama had been contracting with one, but the exam was too difficult. So they went with Pearson VUE, and it's a little easier, the other one. You don't have a frame of reference, basis of comparison, I'm just thinking out loud. But, so whenever they made the change, they had a bunch of instructor workshops where instructors had to go, and we were being taught, you know, the differences between the two, what Pearson VUE tends to focus on, different than what the other, so we could adjust our teaching. And for whatever reason, and none of my friends who are instructors too, they had Pearson VUE, it de-accentuates leases and property management. They do not ask a lot of questions on these subjects. And I don't understand why, because the real estate industry, 50% of it's property management, 50% of it's sales. I mean, it's Coke and Pepsi. I don't know why they would not, but hey, it's good for me and you. I ain't got to teach as much. You ain't got to learn as much. So let's turn to page 338. Sweating and stuff. But down to the bottom, leasehold estates. We learned our first week together that the word estate is synonymous with the word interest. It's synonymous with the word right. So if I have an interest in real estate, I have some particular kind of right, and the law has decided to call it a particular type of estate. So if an estate is an interest in property, what's my interest? One of possession, because I just have a leasehold estate. I don't own it. I just have the right to possess it for a period of time. So there are 4 types of leases. Beginning at the top of page 339, we see the estate for years. Weirdly enough, pretty consistent. The word years has nothing to do with anything, so don't try to figure it out. And you see there, estate could be tenancy. Why? Because estate is soda in some states and tenancy is pop in some states. So tenancy and estate are the same. And guys, everybody in the country takes the same national portion. So people in Montana take the same national portion as people in Alabama. So they try to mix in different regional terms. They'll call it estate for years on question 42 and then tenancy for years on question 112. So you got to know the multiple regional terms, unfortunately. Moving down estate for years is this. I'm going to define it for you. Very simple. It begins and it ends, and there's no notion. Let me say it this way, a little poem. It has a beginning date and an ending date and no notice necessary to terminate. If you'd like to write that down, I'll pause. A beginning date, comma, ending date, comma, no notice necessary to terminate. I'm going to talk while you write. Guys, you've read clauses in leases. We require 30 days notice. And if we don't receive 30 days notice prior to this termination of this lease, it will renew for an additional period of time. So what I just said is that clause is not required. When it ends, it ends. So guys, you could have a very simple question. Bobby is renting an apartment from March 1, 2024 to February 28, 2025. What type of interest does he have? Estate for years. That's a very simple statement. They just gave you very basic terms, a beginning and an ending. So don't try to read into it or suggest anything else. Take what they give you. Moving down, and frankly, estate for years is probably a lease that you've been involved with in your life. Next one, estate from period to period. What is that, Mr. Yarber? Well, first of all, as you see there, it could be called tenancy from period to period. And both of those could be abbreviated and referred to as periodic estates or periodic tenancies. So in all 4 ways it can be called, the common thread, the common word is period. So what is that, Mr. Yarber? That's where I would insert the appropriate period. I rent to my tenants, I tell you, on a month-to-month basis. I would insert the appropriate period. I rent to my tenants on a year-to-year basis. So on the second line in that paragraph, highlight the 2 words, indefinite time. That is a unique feature that you may need to know in the exam. See, if I sign a lease with you and you're going month to month, we'll month to month for eternity. Or until you decide you don't want to rent from me anymore, or I decide I don't want to rent to you no more. There is no predicted ending date on the relationship. But notice is required. So look at the 5th line. Tenancy continues indefinitely until proper notice of termination is given. Typically, the notice required is equal to the period. So if it's a month-to-month lease, then they require a month's notice. So me and the tenant will month to month to month to month to month to month to month. But if the tenant wakes up one day and says, I want to move, they put in 30 days notice. Bottom of the page, you see holdover tenancy in bold print in that paragraph highlighted. It's self-explanatory in the fact that they have an interest tenancy. And what is it? They're a holdover, meaning they've had permission at one time, their lease has expired, yet they remain, hence the term holding over. So let's say I got a duplex. I got a young man in one of the units that's been with me for 6 years, and man, I'm thankful for him. He's polite and mannerly anytime I have to deal with him, and he pays his rent on time every month. He keeps the joint dolled up. I'm thankful to have him. But one day he gives notice to us at my office, and so here it is, the end of the month, and I show up to the property with a bucket of 409, some rags, and a mop, and a broom, and a vacuum cleaner, and blah, blah, blah. And I key the door, and I open it up, and there he is in there. Nothing has changed. Nothing has vacated. He's there watching college football. He gets up. He sees the confusion on my face. Mr. Yarborough, the situation changed. That job in Huntsville fell through. I tried to get a hold of you Wednesday at the office. The secretary said they didn't know where you were. Then I tried again Friday, and I left a message. I don't know if you got that message. But since my situation changed, can I stay? You know me, and you've had a good thing, And I say, gosh almighty, I'm so glad. I hate to say it, but I'm glad your job fell through. Yeah, I've been thankful to have you. Yes, you can remain. That's choice one. In other words, the law says if I catch a holdover tenant, I got 2 choices. You can remain. But what if he tells me that and I say, gee whiz, I wish I'd have known this, because I just rented it out Tuesday to a single mother with 2 kids. She's coming in here next week to take possession. If I'd have known your situation fell through, trust me, I would have stayed with you. And he says, well, damn, Mr. Yarb, I was trying to be nice about it, but I ain't leaving. Well, the law says I can evict him. So this is one of those other areas that nerds try to say something fancy that's pretty elementary, like the landlord has 2 options in such an event of a holdover tenancy. They can let them remain or they can evict them. Well, hell, wouldn't you think? I can't think of another choice other than kill them, and then bury them in the back. Nerds trying to make very elementary stuff just sound bigger than it is. Turn to the page. Estate at will. This is the 3rd of the 4 types of leasehold estates. You see there, it could be called tenancy at will. As this happens a lot, it happens so often, the government had to come up with a name for it. There's going to be times in your life, it hadn't happened already, that somebody you love and care for is going to come to you in need of refuge at your house. Maybe a cousin, it may be a friend, maybe a friend going through a divorce, and they're like, Mark, can you let me hold up in your finished basement for a couple of months while I can get back up on my feet? Maybe it's your mama, maybe it's your adult daughter, what have you. So let's say, a guy I grew up with, we're tight. He's going through a divorce. His old lady's kicked him out of the house. He says, Mark, all I need is a couple of months. I'll get in the papers. I'll interview, I'll be out of your hair. I say, of course you can stay with me for a couple of months. But every day I come home, I find out he ain't been doing nothing but playing damn video games all day, So I'm grinding my teeth after about 6 weeks. After about 2 months, he's still down there playing video games. I say, me and you tight. Come on, I ain't said nothing because I'm trying to be nice, but I'm aware. I know, Mark, I've been a little lazy. I'm honestly, I ain't had much time off in my life, and I'm milking this. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to get on it. 2 more months of the same crap. So I come in there and I said, you the hell out of here by midnight Friday, okay? That's what it's come down to. We breaking up as friends. Well, he ain't out on Friday. In fact, on Thursday, I get a certified return receipt letter from his attorney. Because you know what happened? When I allowed him to live with me, you know what I created? A leasehold estate. And now he is forcing me to evict him, and now I got to spend $2,000 to $5,000 trying to get his ass out of my house. It's sad in life when you give someone you love, know, and trust refuge. You take a chance, and they just screw you. Throw it right back in your damn face. But it happens so often. That is God's honest truth why the courts had to come up with a name for it. They try to make it sound fancy, but this means there's no written agreement. This is just at the will of the parties, and it's usually a situation as I described. The estate itself, for instance, is redundant. It's the holdover tenancy, which we just discussed. You'll see holdover tenancy throughout the paragraphs below that. So it's not new information. I don't understand the redundancy. On page 341, we're not going to talk about the requirements of a valid lease. Why? Because it's redundant of what the requirements of a contract is, because isn't a lease a contract? So this is repetitive of chapters 11. We're not going to go over it. We've already talked about a contract and gone over its ingredients. So let's go to page 345. Types of leases. So we're going to talk about some commercial leases for a minute. Anybody in my room ever had any retail leasing experience? Ever lease a little store in a shopping center? Anybody? You? Okay. So let's start out on the whiteboard distinguishing a gross lease from a net lease. Y'all, they are fraternal twins, meaning they are similar, but not identical. Yeah. So gross versus net. Let's say I own a strip, L shopping center. You know, there's a difference between a strip shopping center and an L shopping center, you know? Let's say I own an L shopping center and it's on the hottest corner in town. In commercial real estate, the hottest corner means the most traffic count. So all my tenants in my shopping center do 3 times better in this location than they do in any of their other locations. My Hobby Lobby kicks butt, my Things Remembered kicks butt, my Claire's kicks butt, my Radio Shack kicks butt. My Piccadilly's has always got a parking lot full of Crown Vics. Everybody does very good. And let's say I charge them $22 a foot for the space that they occupy. I get that check every month, whether they sold anything, damn it, just like rent on an apartment. But I, as the owner of the shopping center, have 3 burdens, 3 expenses associated with owning a shopping center. I have to pay the property's taxes. I have to pay the property's insurance. And I am responsible for the property's maintenance. I'll have me a little maintenance crew, fix the bathroom, the toilet's running over in the Radio Shack, broken glass on the Things Remembered, and maybe my maintenance guy's blowing the parking lot, squeegeeing the glass, picking up trash, etc. So these are my 3 burdens. But I wake up one day and I realize I got a lot of demand for my shopping center. In fact, I've got 7 prospective tenants waiting on a hold to come empty. And when you got demand for what you're selling, what do you want to do? Go up. So I'm thinking, should I go up from $22 to $25? I say, no, I'm going to maintain this shelf rate. What I'm going to do is take these annual figures and add them all 3 together. And then I'm going to divide them by the total square feet in the shopping center, because what I'm going to arrive at is a per square foot cost of taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Remember, we talked about prorating last night. You want to get things down to a smaller unit of measurement. So if I pass my burdens on to them, so not only would they pay this, but they will pay their pro rata share of the property's annual taxes, insurance, and maintenance. We call that in the streets, don't write this down, that's a triple net lease. I'm passing all 3 of my burdens on to my tenants. Sometimes maybe I only pass insurance and maintenance. In the streets, we call that a net lease, meaning I'm only passing 2 of the 3. If I pass all 3, it's a triple net lease. So why did you do that, Mr. Yarber? Why didn't you just raise this from $22 to $30? Well, I want to maintain, so to speak, my shelf rate. This is a new concept in marketing and pricing. Picture you getting on Airbnb. You're going to go to Mobile on business, but you're going to bring your old lady with you and you're going to get an Airbnb, you know, maybe stay an extra night, do a little hotel, a little restaurant in Mobile. So you think $100 is my maximum price that I want to go. So on Airbnb, you put $100, right? And then you put the area and then you hit enter and it looks for them. And maybe 10 of them pop up. But boy, you know how the Airbnbs are getting it. Sure, they charging you $100 a night, but then you go check out, they charge you a $125 cleaning fee, a $42 processing fee, a $15 application fee. So what I kept the $100 a night because I know that's what you're shopping me by. But then I get you with these. So that's why I chose to pass these on and maintain my shelf rate so I can be competitive with other shopping centers. So anytime the tenants pay any of the owner's burdens, it's a net lease. But what if I'm the owner and I only charge my tenants $22 a foot and I pay my own damn bills? Well, then that's a gross lease. So the distinction between a gross lease and a net lease is who's paying the property's 3 bills. If the tenants are paying the property's bills, it's a net lease. If the owner pays his own bills, gross lease. The owner is gross. That's something, you know, because he's hairy, always sweaty. Got hair on his neck because he never shaves his neck. Don't you hate that? He's gross. So now we're at the bottom, percentage lease. All right, so in this little scenario, I own the Galleria. You know, we got a lot of virtual students, satellite students, never been to Birmingham, and we affectionately call the Galleria the Gonorrhea. I'm kind of teasing. I'm proud of the Galleria, and I hope to God it hangs around. You know, I'm gonna miss malls if they go away. Aren't y'all? I mean, isn't it nice to get on a Saturday, you know, and just go out and about, especially with your youngins, especially on Christmas, you know? But it's slowly going away, guys. I hope all of y'all as consumers just try maybe once a month to go to a little local store, you know, and buy you a little something, keep the local businesses with some brick and mortar and business. We're gonna all be sad when they go away. Why am I getting carried away? Well, damn. Here's the point. I own the Galleria. One of my anchors is empty. Okay, Macy's done went out of business, folded. So I got a 32,000 square foot anchor empty. Now I'm gonna charge $22 a foot. Guys, where am I getting this $22? It's just a number I'm pulling out of my sleeve for examples. I don't know what the going rate on damn retail space in a mall is. But let's say I'm charging everybody $22 a foot, you know, and if you've got a 30,000 square foot store, 30,000 times 22 is 660 divided by 12. Your monthly rent, $55,000 a month for a big old anchor. That's whether you sold anything or not. But guys, in every industry, in every profession, some people are average, some people are good, some people are inferior, right? That's just true in life in general. And what if I'm a better property manager than most property managers? Let me ask you a stupid question. Do you think the tenants benefit in revenue based on whether the property manager does a good job or not? It's almost a slap in the face calling you stupid, but I'm trying to get the obvious. Well, of course, Mr. Yarbrough. And if I'm one of those property managers that goes above and beyond the call of duty, you know, I always got the bell ringing events during Christmas to bring the folks to the mall. You know, I got a Halloween thing for the youngins to come, get some candy, you know. I got events, Easter, you know, just to bring to, I keep it spotless. You don't see no dust balls in the corner. My tenants are going to benefit from that. So Nordstrom's hits me up. They're interested. And Nordstrom's has other stores in the country. So let's say I selected one of their Atlanta stores. Nordstrom's has an Atlanta store where they're renting a 40,000 square foot anchor. And let's say last year they made $6.3 million in that store. I don't even know the market that well. I don't know if that's normal for what a Nordstrom's would make. I'm just coming up with numbers, okay? Well, if I divide 6.3 by the 40,000 square foot, remember, prorating, I'm going to get a per square foot revenue. So 6,300,000 divided by 40,000 square feet, they make an average of $157.50 per square foot of revenue. Now, they want a 32,000 square foot store in the Galleria. Based on the numbers you see on the board, do I have the ability to reasonably predict what they're going to earn in my store? What am I going to do then? Please, someone tell me. Some of y'all flipped the damn coin and got the answer right. Good for y'all, you know, because that's sometimes the way you got to get an answer right. y'all think I just aerobic that for the hell of it? Cause I'm bored, wanna hold y'all for an extra 5 minutes. So look at that, for 1 second, let the wheels turn, let the wheels turn. Bam! My store's 32,000 square feet. They make it 157 in another store. I now have the ability to reasonably predict, whether I'm right or wrong, you see where I'm at. So what I get is 32,000 times 157.5, and I get $5,040,000. And John, you're right. This is a multiple. You know, effectively, this is what we call a multiple. So in the lease, I tell Nordstrom's, I'm charging you $20 to $22 a foot. That's the fixed portion of your lease. That will be the same every month. And then I establish a benchmark within our lease. And I'm just going to round it off. I establish 5 million as a benchmark. So I tell Nordstrom's, if you make over 5 million, I'm taking the credit. You see where I'm at? That's why I told you, if I'm a good property manager, you're going to benefit. So if you make more than 5, that means you're doing better in my mall than you're doing other malls. I want some of the credit. So I say, I'm going to get Nordstrom's. I'm going to get $22 a foot from you, which we just figured for a 32,000 square feet be about $55,000 a month. But I want 12% of every dollar over 5 million that you make at the end of the year. Okay. So let's say at the end of the year, they made $6 million. What's the difference between 5 and 6? 1 million. What's 12% of 1 million? 120,000. So in addition to having received that every month, I get another $120,000 from Nordstrom's. That's me getting paid for me going above and beyond. Guys, this could be one of your math questions. So a portion of their rent is fixed, a portion of their rent is a percent of their earnings, and there's going to be a benchmark that's established, and you use those figures to arrive at the answer. I know I'm going fairly quickly, but are y'all able to grasp what I'm saying? And that sounds insulting. I don't mean to even say it like that, but are you, at my speed, are you grasping it? Do you see the focus, the concept? You don't have to nod yet because I'm looking at you. I mean, because if I'm not, I got to make changes, slow down, do something else. Page 347, discharge of a lease. That sounds kind of gross. I don't know what they're talking about. And nothing to talk about. Turn over here to page 348. All right. 348. So guys, y'all walked up in this classroom 6 weeks ago knowing what actual eviction is. That's a wrong on the part of the tenant. The tenant did something that the lease says don't do. More often than not, it's because they didn't pay their rent, but they could be growing illegal drugs. They could be, RV on blocks, getting the cops called on them all the time, whatever. Actual eviction. Tenant goofed up. You had to take this class to learn about the next one. Constructive eviction. What would you deduce that this means? What would you anticipate? And thank God. Yes, the landlord. I mean, you got two people, the tenants and the landlord. The actual eviction is the tenant. Just doing math, my God. But here's what we need to know. Put 2 bullets in the left-hand margin of constructive eviction. Put them about 2 inches apart to allow yourself to put a little note under one of them. The 2 bullets, you're going to write, the first bullet is quiet enjoyment. Second bullet is habitable premises. That word is spelled habit and able combined. Habit, able, habitable. Obviously, habitable means livable, like a habitat. Livable. And, gosh, you would imagine that's a property manager's responsibility, right? Okay. So let's explain what these mean. Now, since we're talking about leases, when you see quiet enjoyment, you kind of want to assume it has something to do with noises. The little 10-year-old up there been taking dance lessons, tap dancing lessons for the last 6 weeks, driving me crazy. or the kids next door with their rock and roll. That's nothing to do with noise. Quiet enjoyment means me, the landlord, am in some way preventing the tenant from thoroughly enjoying the property through the terms of the lease and the law. Now, guys, y'all know my theme. That sounds very fancy. The academic. Yeah, they make all this thing sound like people wearing suits and shit. No, some of this is country as cornbread, y'all. And I'm about to prove it to you. John, now you just trying to impress people. You just trying to show off. All right. Quite enjoy. Let's say I'm 75 years old. And I'm doing what 75-year-olds do. Me and my wife, who retired, and I go every morning to the Hardee's and drink coffee with the boys at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know? Y'all ever see that? Y'all know what I'm talking about? You ever want some wisdom? Take your ass to a Hardee's at 5 o'clock in the morning, tell them all your problems. They'll solve them. Hell, boy, I'm divorced 3 times. If I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't do this. And you're like, right down slow, right slow. Man, I've learned so much from older men. I'm drifting. Quiet enjoyment. So I'm 75. I'm at the Hardee's. I'm eating my biscuit and drinking my coffee. Now it's 6 in the morning. I'm heading to the house. And I drive by an RV lot. Been driving by this RV lot for 15 years, as long as we've been living there. But as I pass it, a little light bulb comes up. I turn around. I go back to that RV. I'm gonna buy me and Mama. You know how old people call their wife Mama. I'm gonna buy me and Mama an RV. I mean, we 75. We supposed to be on the road. I'm driving. I got a smile. It's hurting my cheeks the whole way home. I'm just picturing getting out. We'll quietly walk up to the door, and she's gonna look out and just jump into my arms, and we're gonna kiss like we 16. So I go quiet to the door, I open it up. Honey, come here for a second. Oh, I'm excited. She comes to the door and says, oh, hell no. I'm like, I'll be damned. She says, I get sick driving. I can't drive long distance. You've known that the whole time we've been together. And frankly, where are you gonna park it? My garden right here at the end of the driveway, and you damn sure ain't parking it off the driveway on the grass. I think, man, I got 2 problems now. Hell, I got 3 problems. She's one of them. So maybe in this little story, I own 2 properties, my home and 1 more. Little strip center, 4 shops, little slanty parking places. We all have seen these. Little landscaping right here against the road. This is my little shopping center. So now I got a predicament. I can't park it. I ain't gonna take it back. Out of damn spite, I'm keeping it. I'm gonna wear her ass down. That's what I'm gonna do. But I park it. I straddle the blacktop. And on Thursday, my tenant right here calls me up. Mr. Yarber, some damn fool has parked an RV on the back parking lot, and now my delivery truck ain't got enough room to circle around. Y'all see where I'm at? That's quiet enjoyment. I'm affecting his ability to enjoy the property. That's cornbread and collard green. That ain't Manhattan, people with suits. So now we're at habitable premises. Obviously, if the plumbing breaks, I've got to respond to it, fix it, and within a certain amount of time, et cetera, et cetera. We all understand that. And, one thing I was very surprised to learn when I was y'all is that, let's say I rent a warehouse. I've got a string of 30 drugstores throughout the Southeast, and I got a little distribution warehouse and right off Highway 25 in Calera, And overnight, nobody was killed, but it caught on fire. 1/3 of my warehouse and my inventory burnt down. Now, when I was y'all and I read that, I thought, well, I'm relieved of the terms of the lease as the tenant. Wouldn't you imagine? No, hell no. Now, complete destruction will relieve the tenant from the terms of the lease. But the law allows the landlord a period of time to bring the property back. Now, if I fail to within that period of time, all right, now I'm not providing habitable premises and I can be, declare constructive eviction. So you are going to know quiet enjoyment and habitable premises, okay? And with that, we are done. I'm not going to make you do your 15 minutes because we did not teach that entire subject. So gang, we're done for the week. We're getting real, man. We're on chapters 18 next time. You know how many chapters in the book? 21. We got 4 chapters. It's getting real. So if you ain't had a sense of urgency, have a sense of urgency. Study with a plan. Don't study spontaneously. Have a set period of time where you study. Try to have long study sessions. Make it enjoyable. Have your snacks, your pet. Create a comfortable environment. But man, you got a project in front of you. Handle your business. Let those people around you know they can depend on you. See y'all next Tuesday, 6 p.m. John, you be good. Be careful. Stay out of jail.